you, and then I don't use things like Discord and shit like that. So can I
Yeah, that's
swear?
pretty much the number one place you can get me at is Discord. I'm always in on my Discord that I have.
The first of
But yeah, this is the big ass coffee that I was telling you about.
yeah, I thought it would be appropriate for me to have a cup of tea, considering the fact that the first debate started in '76 because of a cup of tea. So cheers.
Cheers.
Do you like my mug as well?
That's a crazy mug. What do you
Live.
support communism or something?
No, no,
Something
no.
like
I
that.
just that very clear. No, it's just I just find it quite funny that it says "Live, laugh, love Kim Jong Un."
Well,
Bit of sarcasm for you. Never surrender. Is that official MAGA merch?
no.
It's not.
This one's liberal tears.
Little tears. Is that what you drink on a daily basis? Is it?
Well, you were trying to get some Republican tears out of me, so it looks like you were also trying to drink tears. But no, yeah, that's what I drink daily. But yes, give us an introduction about yourself so everyone knows a little bit about you. I like to start with talking about yourself a little bit.
Well, my name's Cameron. I'm from the UK. I live in the north of England, so I'm not near London. I'm not kind of.
You're near the good side. You're in the best area of the UK.
I would argue that. I'm sure people from the south would disagree, but that's much like you guys as well, isn't it? East Coast, West Coast, North, South.
Yeah.
Have you been to the north?
No.
You haven't. Well, yeah. So the north of England.
No.
Kind of give you a bit of a history of the north of England, I suppose, because that would be good as a context thing. Is that especially the northeast where I'm from, it's got like a rich history of kind of steel works, industrial kind of industrial towns. We live near a port, an old port, where we used to manufacture steel. We were the kind of the heart of the Industrial Revolution back in the 1900s. And slowly but surely, we've kind of been hollowed out in terms of our infrastructure. We don't manufacture steel to the level that we used to.
What happened? What was the cause?
Well, one name, Margaret Thatcher, Conservative Prime Minister, ended up kind of closing down mining pits, steelworks, and ultimately because we could buy it cheaper abroad. So it was strangely, it's kind of almost what MAGA Republicans would argue for in terms of manufacturing at home, and I would agree with that in this regard, because what it ended up inevitably doing was it decimated a town and its history and its culture. Ultimately, the people that we had mining communities, not just up in the northeast of England, but also in Wales and across the country. But it was successive governments pretty much hollowing out our steel industries. We still have steel, raw steel being made in the UK. Only just the government, the Labour government at the moment, were just able to keep the steel pits open, the steel furnaces open, in a few areas. And it's one of those things that if you end up closing it down, you can't open it again. It's virtually impossible to open again. So I think there's kind of a lot of people maybe in urban areas where they would argue that the days are gone of kind of manufacturing steel, but ultimately you need to make things like steel. It's inevitable that you're going to end up using it, and kind of moments like this with global conflict where you kind of realize how open you are to coercion and manipulation from other nations, whether it be the United States or Russia or China, bigger states, where they push you in a position where you can't. You have to rely on them. You have to go along with what they say, because ultimately they control steel supply, oil supply, gas supply. And I think, sadly,
that's why you need. Sorry to interrupt you, but maybe you should agree with Trump on one thing. Then protective trade practices, because that's exactly why America is using tariffs to regain a control for our mining of coal and manufacturing steel. And that's exactly why we have tariffs and we have these other protective trade practices, because unfortunately, if another country can get the price for lower and they can manipulate the market, like you just talked about, China, Russia, America, we have all the power. Those are the three, tier one countries, I would say, that control most of the economy around the world. So I would agree definitely on, I think you would agree probably on tariffs and protective trade practices, because if your country did that a long time ago and said, "Hey, we can't be buying steel from other places," maybe all those jobs in your town would have never been lost, and we could have developed more efficient and innovative practices to get prices even lower for steel, because that's what capitalism does. You keep doing the same thing over and over again, and historically speaking, capitalism actually makes stuff cheaper. Like when the first phone came out, it was like $10,000. Now we have smartphones you can get for $100. That's what
Mm.
capitalism. That's how capitalism is supposed to work. It's supposed to actually lower the prices over time. But hello, Chris. Hello, everybody. Smash that like button. Let's see what he said in this. Watch out, mate. Your own travel is a real plonker. He's a real cumber ground plonker. In these parts, he's known as a real. I'm not gonna read that word. And a scrubber,
Minute.
dude. That's a poor attempt at an English accent from an American man, I guess.
Is that about me? What did he say?
He was talking about me. He was saying you're
Oh,
a
right.
which, by the way, my name is Graham. Nice to
Oh,
meet
yeah.
you. I
Sorry,
forgot to introduce myself, but
because I've seen it,
um,
but it's usually at the point where you're in your full MAGA swing. So your name's Graham. Tell me more about you.
I'm from Florida. I've traveled around the world. I've lived in three countries outside my own country. I lived in Spain. I lived in Eastern Europe in Montenegro and in Georgia. But I'm from Florida. I'm in the USA currently. Who's the guest? He is Cameron from the UK, from the northern part of the UK. No, Graham. He was talking to me. He was trying to like talk all the shit in the UK accent, but it was not very good, and I don't even know exactly what area that accent would be from, so I don't even know where to start there. Oh yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
25 years old.
wondering why. Because to be honest, I wasn't. I was quite surprised that your YouTube channel was called Euro and Travel, considering it.
Yeah, I do. I'm gonna be doing more travel content and whatnot. I have traveled over 20 countries. I have some travel stuff planned this week actually with my friend. We're gonna be going to some events and whatnot, but I'm not gonna disclose what events for privacy reasons because I don't want weirdos stalking me. But
Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna be doing some traveling, but it's inside the country. It's inside the U.S., so we're not going to Europe. But I have traveled quite a long. I have done all kind different shorts, but now I'm more on like the political landscape. I enjoy talking about European politics, even though like I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know all the politicians' names. I don't know all the different countries' structure. But
yeah.
this is
But
Cam North. Yeah, this is Cam North. I don't know who said that, but yeah, this is Cam North.
that's my brother.
What's up? What's up?
That's my
So
brother's.
where were we going? We were talking about your town and the wars and whatnot and the conflicts, and I'm just gonna let you pick up where you left off because I kind of interrupted you.
Yeah, so like I would agree on the whole. In terms of you were saying about keeping manufacturing at home and stuff, and I think once those things have gone, it's difficult to kind of put it back. So I would argue for that now, especially I would consider myself, especially a few years ago, before Trump, before 2016, definitely a globalist. I believed in kind of like uh, in being unified in both kind of in global trade and morals and ethics, and I
Well,
think
morals and ethics are also culture. They have way different morals and ethics in the East than they do in the West. I mean, like people online act like it's a big difference, but it really is a massive difference in what you see in poor Eastern European countries than Western European countries, and what you see in America versus what you see in China is even more drastically different.
yeah. Well, so I think when you were saying about tariffs and keeping kind of manufacturing at home, I'd agree that tariffs are necessary in some regards to protect markets and your own kind of economy's raw manufacturing. But with regards to what Trump did on Liberation Day,
He hit y'all too hard.
say again.
He destroyed your economy too much.
No, well, funnily enough, it was weird because it was kind of like the whole formula of it. I don't know what the well. Let's be honest, the formula wasn't a formula. It was just kind of plucked out of someone's ass. I don't know whose ass it was plucked out of, but it was plucked out of someone's ass. And it was the fact that we had what they called a reciprocal tariff of 10% for the United Kingdom, which was apparently very low, very low. Um, Despite the fact that we don't have trade deficit. We have a trade surplus with the United States. It's in America's interest to be trading with us. We buy more from the United States than you guys buy from the United Kingdom, and yet there were tariffs, a blanket tariff on the United Kingdom, which almost decimated our steel industry. Which, again, you could argue, well, it's big dog eats little dog, but I don't really see the and I'll let you come in a second, but I don't see the strategy there, and especially when it comes to an ally that is already working hand in hand with the United States to then cause conflict, whether it be economic or militarily, with an ally in that regard.
I'm not 100% sure, honestly, why Trump tariffed the UK. Let's see.
I think
it was because of the vehicles. It was because we can't sell our automobiles into your country at a very fair rate for our cars. I think it was like 25 or 30% you were charging us to import our cars into the UK. That's why you see all European cars in the UK. You don't see really any American cars. And I know this is on the other side, but I mean, I'm pretty sure we can just put it on the other side for you guys if you really want it that badly.
Yeah, well, when it comes to, well, first of all, if it was Trump, we wouldn't buy your cars. They're frankly disgusting. They're too big. They're badly made as well, especially compared to German cars. But
badly made. Some American cars are some of the most reliable cars. German cars are not reliable anymore. I'm sorry.
What?
German cars are my favorite. The only reliable German car that I can think of, Volkswagen, not really reliable anymore too much. Mercedes, definitely not reliable. Porsche, okay, Porsche is reliable. I'll give it to Porsche, but it's not very solid anymore. All car quality around the world, I will say, like in terms of breaking down, has drastically gone down, except like the Japanese and the Chinese.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But yeah, in terms of that kind of blanket Liberation Day, those tariffs, I think what that kind of did into. See, I could go into loads of things, but in terms of kind of with an ally like the United Kingdom, you could sit down and talk with the United Kingdom. We're very polite people. We will sit down and discuss. And I think one of the things that maybe I don't know if we'll disagree agreeably here or whatever, or find common ground. But the one thing I do think is damaging about the MAGA kind of MAGA movement and Trump's kind of way of the kind of the stockbroker kind of New York, Wall Street kind of, what's the word?
Entrepreneurship.
What's it called? When making trade deals and stuff like that, the kind of the way to,
the art of the deal.
Let's call it the art of the deal for that sake. Yeah, that kind of way to negotiate with allies, I think, has considerably damaged not just the United Kingdom but the United States as well. For putting all kind of domestic political opinions aside, whether it be a Labour or a Conservative government or a Republican or a Democrat government, ultimately on foreign diplomacy, we tend to work very well with each other. And I think that's at the benefit of the United States and the United Kingdom and all European allies.
Where were you guys when we needed you in Iran? We had to beg and beg, and now you just offered Typhoon jets.
I'll tell you where. First, this is going to have to go back to Iraq and Afghanistan. One of the things, how can you expect the United Kingdom and other NATO allies to join, first of all, a war of aggression and imperialism, not of defense?
It is of defense. We've been getting attacked for 47 years.
I saw you saying this.
There have been over 100 attacks on Americans from Iran.
Okay, so if that's the case, then why hasn't Trump then gone through Congress to try and get, first of all, Congress and then also the United Nations to agree to attack Iran, but also...
Well, Congress already agreed that Trump doesn't need approval, and going to the United Nations, I mean, he's already asked NATO, and he's already asked, we are the United Nations, we are NATO, we fund... I mean, if you look at GDP, that's an argument you can make, but the total military budget, we are the majority funder of the NATO military budget. I know NATO has a bunch of different aspects, like they have other stuff they do, but as far as the military budget, we're like over 60% of the military budget. And as far as the UN, I believe we're also over 60% funded in that as well. So why do we have to beg you guys to help us when we're building your militaries? Because when we give money to NATO, y'all are buying weapons, you're training your militaries, you're building these planes, you're building your military.
Well, right, okay. So
And every single time you guys dragged us into a war and we had to come save you guys, and you guys were the quote unquote aggressor. I
what
mean, what
wars?
about France? France is the whole reason. I mean, I know you're not in France, but France is the whole reason that we got sent into Vietnam. Why aren't they sending their soldiers
Hey,
into
we we.
Iran?
We stayed out of it. I can't speak on behalf of France. You know, my French isn't too great. But in terms of first of all, when have we dragged you into a war?
England? Well, you guys did. You guys were basically about to be taken over. I think it was in World War II. I mean, you guys needed our help real fucking badly.
Right. Okay. So we didn't get
You guys
the
were about to literally quit,
dragged into World War Two.
surrender. Huh?
How did the United States get dragged in by the United Kingdom into World War Two?
Well, you guys were having issues over there with the Nazis and whatnot.
Well,
I
that
mean,
wasn't the United States joined the war. Why did the United States join
because
the war?
we got hit by Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, so you were dragged into the war ultimately after years of not being involved in a war
Yeah,
by
but you
you.
guys were all in a bunch of over. That was just one of the reasons. One of the reasons was Pearl Harbor. That was like the main reason. Right after that, we joined. But you guys were having a bunch of conflicts and problems and wars over there. Like every single world war literally has started with Europe, and we've
Yeah.
always cleaned up the
Oh,
mess.
well, it's funny because that's one of the reasons why the European Union was formed and the Geneva Convention became a thing about.
Well, that's
Um,
unfortunate because I think, I don't know how you feel about Brexit, but I don't think the European Union is that good. But at the same time, you guys left the European Union and you followed like the worst policies that they had. You kept those same policies. If you were going to leave the European Union, why the fuck would you open your borders? I mean, you might as well just stayed in the European Union and allowed and opened your borders because you did the same thing they were going to force you to do anyway. You just didn't get their money.
that wasn't.
You did all the same stuff they were gonna force you to do, but you just
You
didn't get their
say,
money.
you say you, but that was a conservative right wing government that did that.
Well, I don't know if you want to call Keir Starmer and his buddies conservative. I mean, I guess
No, that
because
wasn't Keir Starmer. That was Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and
well,
Rishi.
Boris Johnson wasn't very conservative.
Oh
Even
my!
now, American conservatives laugh at him and say he's not nearly conservative
Well,
enough.
fair. He's a populist like Trump. He'll go wherever the wind goes. But in terms of what were we talking about there? So
Trump
with
would
Will,
never all of a sudden say immigrants can come into this country.
right, hang on. We'll come on to immigration in a moment. But when it comes to the United States, and so first of all, we can agree that Britain didn't drag the United States into a war. It was Japan that dragged the United States into a war. So
Yeah, but obviously that was where it started. But you guys were having your issues.
yeah, because Nazi Germany at the time was an imperialist nation, was trying to land grab in Europe, just like Russia is doing, just like the United States is doing, whether it be in Palestine
So every time someone tries to land grab you guys, we have to come and save you. And
or
the
Greece.
United States isn't land grabbing anything in Palestine. Palestine was already part of Israel.
Tell me this then. When was the only? When is the only? When is Article 5 of NATO?
And NATO started land grabbing towards Russia too. They
Yeah,
started, huh?
that's successive governments in the United States that have done that.
NATO was land grabbing towards Russia. I don't
Yeah,
care what president it was. I don't care if it's the
no,
US or whatever. I'm not putting a blame on you. I'm
how
just
is it
saying there's
grabbing?
also European allies in NATO, obviously, and there's America. So whoever was land grabbing towards Russia with NATO,
Grabbing? How is it land
huh?
grabbing? The United States believes in liberation, and it believes in the United
How
States.
do we liberate a country by letting them join NATO?
Not liberation.
All
Sorry,
NATO does is drag people in the war.
we can argue. You can argue that point, but you'd be at, which is fine. But what I'm saying, and the point that I'm making is the United States and the West ultimately relies upon and believes in its culture, like you were saying about morals and ethics being a part of its culture. It believes in freedom of choice and liberty, and it believes in sovereignty. How is it land grabbing if a nation decides to join a defensive organization? How is that land grabbing?
Because all it does is push aggression towards the nation that you made an agreement with not to be part of this aggressive organization.
You believe that? Okay, that's
Because
fine.
NATO spreads its influence. It's not just about defense and offense. They
Do,
spread. There's
do you
literally
not,
requirements to join NATO. Like they're spreading their influence.
do, so you're arguing
And
for
also, NATO is the one that declined Russia from joining it multiple times. They literally said they wanted to be part of NATO.
yeah, and
So why did they decline Putin.
I wouldn't
And then
say
why did they literally declined Putin's request to join NATO, and then they moved NATO closer and closer to Russia.
part of it.
Obviously, Russia is the aggressor, but did
So
Ukraine not do that as well?
the talking point that you, first of all, Putin would have been denied access to NATO and to join NATO because of things like the Salisbury poisonings, where two British nationals were killed on UK soil. I don't know why you would allow an aggressor that is doing it covertly with things like Novichok to kill people in
What
what
the
you would.
hell is Novichok? A
It's
drone hit y'all and killed 2 citizens?
no. It's a nerve agent. It's a chemical warfare. So two people in a place called Salisbury in the United Kingdom were killed by two Russian agents that
What
came over
year was that?
2015, 16.
Well, that was way after Putin already requested multiple times. When he requested to join NATO, it was like in the early not or the late '90s, early 2000s when George W. Bush was president. I heard Bush out of his own mouth say that he declined Putin multiple times, like himself, like he was the one that got to decide that he wasn't going to be in freaking NATO.
So he raised the idea of joining NATO several times in the early 2000s, most clearly in 2000. But I, first of all, I wouldn't argue that countries or nations like Russia, or what we would usually call kind of adversaries in the past, at the very least, to join a defensive organization that was ultimately all of the Berlin
Well,
Wall.
who won World War II?
The Allies.
And who was in the Allies? We should have
You,
formed. We should have formed
United States
an
and
organization right there.
say again.
We should have formed an organization right there. Some of our allies aren't in NATO,
Yeah, we did. That's what NATO was. I think it was formed in 1948. It takes a bit of time.
but some of our allies weren't in. Like it slowly joined country after country.
Yeah, so there was the initial kind of states that joined, and then after, when I say states, I mean nations like the United States. And I think the UK joined in about. I don't even know if we were a founding partner of NATO. I think we must have been. But the talking point that you have at the
The
moment.
UK, I think, was one of the first. I think you were like when they were. I think there was like originally 5 or 6 countries that started
Yeah,
it, and then it kept spreading.
but the talking point that you have at the moment, though, is
We
a,
formed allies right there. What I mean is, we should have formed all of the allies instantly. We shouldn't have just grabbed up one state after one country after another. We should have just said, okay, we're gonna start NATO, but all these countries, the entire continent of Europe, should be part of NATO.
including Russia.
Yeah, you're literally separating people with these organizations. All these things do is separate people that
Yeah,
don't need to be
I
separated. They want to be a part of it. If we
well,
were all part of NATO and we were all part of
all of friends, and
if we were all the EU and we were all NATO, then we probably wouldn't have any wars going on in Europe. I mean, do you agree on that?
the point that I would make. I completely agree with you. I think when it comes to cooperation and collaboration between nations, it's really important. So what you're arguing, I don't know. I don't think
They put Russia in an isolationist state. Not
the
only did they let them not
United
join
States,
NATO, they were also going through the Cold War at the same time, and it just been nothing but aggression ever since the
yeah,
Cold War and and the conflicts.
I totally agree. When it comes to the Cold War, if you think about what I don't, you, I think the point that you're making is kind of contradicting itself when you're saying that we should have joined back then, but not. So all nations at that time should have joined NATO, but now it's considered land grabbing. I don't know how's that
Yeah, because you can't just go up to a country that literally used to be controlled by another country and just start saying, "Oh, we're going to join NATO," and we know NATO doesn't like Russia
Do you not believe
and
in
they're
democracy?
aggressive. Huh?
Do you not believe in democracy? Do you not believe in sovereignty and free choice? Does a
Well, they
nation
should
not?
have made the decision back then.
Why not now? Why all of a sudden is it? Why could they not make
Well,
that decision?
sovereignty and democracy in another country's border is threatening, especially when they don't, politically align.
Defensive alliance, and it's never
I don't
started.
agree with communism. All I'm saying is that
What do you mean
when the
communism?
Soviet Union fell, I'm talking to this guy in the comment.
Oh,
I'm
right, right.
saying when the Soviet Union fell, we should have, joined together. We shouldn't have isolated Russia as much, and we
No,
shouldn't have made all these fake promises not to pull NATO closer.
I agree there. What we're talking about there is pretty much anybody in a position of power, whether it be the United States, Britain, or Russia or whatever state we're talking about in some ways affected what's happening today. But the argument that you're making again contradicts itself. Why is it considered an aggressive move for somebody to join NATO now rather than back then?
Because all the countries don't agree with NATO.
What do you mean?
They're literally fighting.
Yeah, Russia.
I mean, I can make an analogy for you. Like literally, it's like some kid that you didn't know, and now you're fighting with him, and he decides that he's going to sit right next to you.
So do you think that Putin was right to invade Ukraine then because of the expansion?
No,
of
I
NATO?
already said that he was the aggressor.
So, but you've just said that NATO is aggressive in it by.
They're both aggressive.
Okay, you could have, well, at least it's a consistent point there if it's both sides. So you're both anti-NATO and anti-Russia, or pro-Russia?
I never said I was anti either one of them. Both of them have things to offer. I just think they both acted aggressively, which caused, the Ukraine situation.
Let's be honest. Russia invaded and Putin invaded Ukraine because he had.
Hold on 1 second. I gotta grab something. I'm listening though.
All right. Okay. No worries. Ultimately, Russia ended up land grabbing Ukraine, if we're going to use the term land grab, physical land grab through military force, have done that because they ultimately believe, or Putin believes, and his regime believes, in the Soviet Union. I think even before that, the Russian Empire, and it believes in imperialism. And ultimately, the United States is doing exactly the same thing now with Venezuela. It's doing exactly the same thing with Iran. It's doing the exact same thing with Gaza. Israel is doing the same thing.
Israel isn't doing the same thing because Gaza is legally part of Israel. They pay taxes in Israel. You can argue that they're killing and genociding their own country, a piece of their own country, but it's legally a part of Israel.
Who gave that to? Whose right was
Britain?
it to give?
Britain.
Yeah, I know. And again,
then you should know that it's literally belongs to Israel. It's one piece of land. It's not two pieces of land. It's under the Israeli government.
If the United States today was occupied by British Empire, say for example, we managed to somehow occupy the United States, and we ended up giving that land to, say, the Venezuelans, would you then be advocating for the Venezuelans to keep that land because that's their land and it's legally binding?
I mean, we have plenty of people's land. People's land.
Say that again, it cut out.
We have plenty of land that we occupy and have invaded and earned. We took a part of Mexico. We got islands from Spain. You got islands. I don't know all the shit that you guys own. The British Virgin Islands. You guys have those. We have the American what are they called? I can't think right now.
But you haven't.
Yeah, we imperialized plenty of stuff and we still own it. So that's literally how we both built our countries. What's so negative about that?
No, what you've avoided my question. My question was if Britain invaded the United States and then gave that land for whatever reason, whether it be because of ethnicity or religion or whatever, or because of a right to that land, a holy right to that land, they gave the United States to Venezuelans, and Venezuelans occupied the United States. Would you advocate for that?
I mean, that's fair game the way I look at it. If you guys can take something from us, come and take it.
Well, that's ultimately where we disagree then, because
that's literally exactly what your whole country was built on, and that's literally what my entire country was built on. We wouldn't have the great United States of America if it wasn't for that.
What's great about
literally Spain did that, and it worked out fine. Spain invaded these islands, and they invaded Guam. They invaded Puerto Rico. They took all these countries, and then they literally sold them to us in one big deal.
It worked out fine. Do you think war, death?
It worked out fine. Yeah.
Ultimately, imperialism and death and destruction to the planet, and both to people and to countries, children, is fine. It's okay. It's a necessary part of life. Do you think the imperial nation able to take what they can?
When was Britain at its greatest? At its greatest when it was
there was nothing
imperializing.
There was nothing great about the empire.
It was great. No, there was nothing great about Britain.
But for white rich men is who it was great for. It wasn't even great for working class.
Britain was all white rich men. What are you talking about?
My ancestors were rich white men in the northeast of England.
I mean, they were doing pretty well.
Pretty well? That's insane to say that. The whole point.
If they were farmers, they were doing pretty well at that time.
Well, weren't well, actually, my mum's side of the family were farmers, but they were working class, mud in dirt farmers, and they weren't.
Exactly. Working class did really well back then. That's when one
They,
guy could work. One guy could work and his whole family could stay home.
yeah, in what kind of a home was that, and what kind of a? Do you think that there were the?
It was better than some homes people be getting now.
Right, my great granddad Bunny, he was called Great Granddad Bunny, and he was a farmer back, maybe 19. It would have been the 1920s, 30s. No, would it have been that early, or was it post World War II? Anyway, that generation of were didn't benefit from the British Empire, and they didn't benefit from ultimately land grabbing and imperialism. I don't know how you could say that.
They did because the economy was boosting.
Yeah, just because the economy is doing well doesn't mean that everybody in the economy. The United States know best for that. You've got the biggest economy in the world. You are the richest nation in the world in history, and yet
everyone is doing well that works hard. Everyone that's working does well.
Say again.
Everyone that works hard does well.
What do you mean by works hard?
Everyone that works a real job, that works 60, 70, 80 hours a week makes a shit ton of money.
Okay. What would you say is working hard?
I don't know, construction job, working more than the bare minimum is working hard, I would say.
What about a waiter? Is that working hard? Is that hard?
Yeah, it is hard work. You can make a lot of money. You can make $250 a day.
Yeah, you can
tips.
It's the same here in the United Kingdom. And what I'm advocating for is exactly what Donald Trump ran on, which is to fight for the working class, and he doesn't.
He does. He's the only president that lowered the taxes. No tax on tips. What about the no tax on tips for the waiters? The waiters don't gotta pay taxes on their tips.
That's great, and I don't think that they should in the first place. And I agree with that. That point I completely agree with. There's no tax on tips. But why do you not have a national minimum wage over $7.35 or something in some states?
Because no one gets paid $7.50 an hour.
What do you mean? So waiters.
Well, we have state minimum wage too. The state minimum wage. The minimum wage is dictated by the state. In 50 different states, there's federal and there's state. The state minimum wage is $7.50, but the federal minimum wage is $7.50, but the minimum wage in Florida is like $15 an hour. In California, it's like $20 an hour for fast food workers. And even in states like Mississippi that still have a state minimum wage of $7.50, even the most basic job does not pay you $7.50. It at least pays you $10 or $11 an hour.
So obviously, one thing I will say, and I'm sure you'll say back the other way, is that in terms of, this is one of the reasons why when I message you about domestic policy and stuff like that, it's going to be difficult to be able to have a constructive debate on it, because there's things about national minimum wage I don't know, and state minimum wage in the United States that I just don't know. But here, what I will say is, here in the UK, people, for example, my mum and my dad currently work full time. My mum's a teaching assistant. My dad works for a charity organisation. Both of them have a moderately sized home that is not expensive in real terms, in terms of what other people's wages are, and they work really fucking hard, and they can barely get by. And that's with things like social healthcare. That's things where you've got a state-run education system that's paid for through tax. They can't get by because half of the time, when it comes to things like tax breaks, when it comes to decisions made by people at the very top, they will ultimately be lobbied and by rich billionaire classes and millionaire classes and corporations and businesses that will ultimately sway both left with the Labour government currently and the right with Conservatives and Reform. They will ultimately lobby them to reduce tax or to not tax on certain things, and ultimately the burden is then put on people that are at the very bottom, like my parents and millions of other people across the UK. And I can't imagine that it's not the same in the United States. I don't know how you can argue that, considering that it's you have more neoliberalism. You have a neoliberal economy in the United States that will ultimately have the same. Look at the big beautiful bill and what that did. Cut how much tax was it added? $4 trillion to the deficit. In the United
States. It didn't add anything to the deficit. Those are estimations. That's if we don't change our budget. We changed our budget. We cut a lot of money. So that doesn't calculate for the new change in the budget.
How can you cut tax and not add to the deficit?
Because we cut our budget. We cut our budget of running our government. We cut useless programs.
By how much?
And we cut scams literally by trillions of dollars.
What scams?
By Somalis that steal money in our country. A bunch of
You
illegal
think
alien immigrants steal money
if,
in our country.
so? So
They stole like $20 billion. That was just one small group of people in one state.
are
They're
you a
stealing social welfare programs and money.
are you a billionaire or a millionaire?
No,
So why are you advocating for people that are getting tax breaks that are billionaires and millionaires? Why are
because
you?
it gives me a tax break too.
How does the big beautiful bill give ordinary working class people?
Because it gives every tax bracket a tax break. The average American that's making $50,000, $60,000 a year is getting a $3,000 tax break.
Where are people seeing that in their pockets? Where are they genuinely
Oh,
seeing?
$3,000?
Yeah, what you
They're seeing a tax return that's bigger by $3,000. They're
yeah,
gonna get a fat fucking check from a tax return, $3,000.
well, again, I can't say that that's landed in my pocket because it's not going to land in my
And
pocket. From
also, the UK has a way lower salary. What's the average salary in Britain, British pounds of a person living there? £37,000 or £42,000?
39,000 pounds.
Okay, the average salary in America is like 65,000,
Yeah,
70,000. I know you have a different currency,
I was going
so
to say
that your goes to about
the pound is
55,000, 50,000, something like that.
yeah.
I mean 40,000, 45,000, something like that. Forty
Um,
thousand, something like that.
and the reason for that
But
is
our salary is still like $25,000 higher.
well, let's work it out. So the average wage of in UK compared to the USA in British pounds and USD.
I'm gonna do after tax. Let's see the average after tax salary, USA versus UK.
Are you going to do that with both federal and state?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so the average person in the United States makes about $62,000 to $65,000 a year, and we take home a monthly $4,433. $4,433. Your average salary is 39,000 pounds, which is $52,000. You guys take home. You guys take home $3,200 after $3,200. But then once you do the annual take home after taxes, it comes out to we're taking home $55,000. You guys are taking home $35,000.
That per month?
I think that's 4,400 versus 3,200.
That right, okay. So that's after tax, 4,400 and then 3,200. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay then. One word: universal healthcare. How much are you having to spend per month on
Yeah,
that?
but if you have a job, you can literally get health care for like $100, $150, $200 maximum.
Yeah, with some jobs, but not all. Whereas in the United Kingdom,
Most, if you work at any company that's a big corporation that has more than 100 employees for more than 40 hours a week, a full time job, you have to have some kind of insurance plan.
okay, what if you can't work?
Why can't you work? Then you're on disability. You can get free health care.
You can get free healthcare on disability.
Yeah. If you can't afford health care, you can get free health care.
So, in terms of, say, what if your company doesn't offer you private healthcare?
Well, then you should find a better job. That's probably not a good company. It's required by law if they have more than like 50 or 100 employees, I think.
Right. So, say if you do work for us, it incentivizes big business rather than small business. Is that right?
Sorry?
So it would incentivize big businesses to do well rather than small businesses.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's moving more and more like that because that's the Democrat policies. That's why I have a problem with people saying that you should be required by law to give people a livable salary. Because in America, if that's $65,000, $70,000 a year, that means when you create a small business, you're gonna have to pay your first employee $6,000 a month. That is fucking ridiculous. That's gonna destroy small business in America.
Somebody's made a good point there. So who would work the lower paid jobs then if they can't? This is the first time where I'm actually looking at a chat, by the way. I haven't done this before. This guy does not represent the UKK. It's just the UK, my friend, but okay.
So no one would work the lower jobs then? No, people would work the lower jobs. Most lower jobs are going to get replaced by AI anyway, but that's a whole nother argument. But people that are in high school or just getting out of school, or maybe they're in college and they're living at home, yeah, they can work at McDonald's. That'll give them enough money to survive off for sure.
Some of these, I don't know how you put up with some of these comments. Are crazy.
So where do they get their health care? Who's they? From the insurance marketplace in the United States of America. That's where they get their health care. It's a website. You can go there and get your health care if you're disabled or you're broke or you're unemployed. You can get your health insurance there. That is true. I will give it to you. The highest form of bankruptcy in the UK is medical debt. I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
What's that?
But there's still ways. There's always ways to get shit for free if you're smart enough. The only way that you get fucked if you don't have a job, you don't have insurance, and you get into a car accident. But if you're in that circumstance, then you should just pay your insurance for 1 month or 2 months until you get back on your feet with a new job.
Right. Okay. Should we move on to another topic?
Yeah, sure.
What do you want to go on to? You said
Oh, here we go. Here's a good point. Last point, though, because I like this comment. This is my friend. Imagine comparing 330 million citizens to a country of 60 million that previously to foreign invasion was largely the same demographic. Yeah, prior to foreign invasion was largely the same demographic. That is another issue. When you're talking about the economy, you can argue foreign wars are an issue, but for America, at least from the calculations I've seen, I don't know how much we pay and how much we spend in war, but I have a trouble believing that it's more than this. We spend roughly between $450 billion a year to $600 billion a year because of all the illegal alien immigrants in our country.
Is that what that Lord guy is talking about? Is he talking about immigration there?
He said something about we used to be the same demographic before immigration.
Who gives a fuck?
I don't know. I want England to stay England, and I want Italy to stay Italy. I'm not saying I disagree with immigration. Immigration is fine, but I don't want millions of people from specific countries pouring into any country without proper checks.
I don't.
And I want it to be limited immigration. I think the immigration, should be in America with our population. I don't know, 1 million or 2 million a year. But we should ramp up. We should have net negative immigration for a long time because we have a lot of people that shouldn't be in here already. So.
Well,
last year we had a net negative immigration. We had more people that either left or mostly got deported or self-deported than we had immigrants. We deported like 3.1 million and we had 1 million immigrants. So that's a net negative of 2 million.
Again, when it comes to immigration, when you said about debating immigration, this is why I was asking about US immigration, because obviously, again, immigration is quite high in terms of what concerns people or people talk about in the UK, but it's not. We don't talk about USA immigration and the border and all that sort of stuff because obviously we're not in the United States. But in terms of we are massively affected by the United States' action in the Middle East, and because of immigration. So if as with the United States advocating for, or Trump, should I say, and MAGA advocating for net negative migration, why then would it get involved in foreign war that ultimately destabilizes nations and then increases the amount of migrants going around the planet trying to find somewhere that isn't war torn?
Well, first off, I've already been to places like Spain. I lived there, and there's a lot of Iranians there, and they were all they are already fleeing in the millions for years and years and years and years and years, and they're already fleeing there. So nothing's really going to change because Iranians have been fleeing for the last 47 years. I mean, I know Iranians in America that fled back in the 70s and came to America.
Yeah.
So as far as that, everyone that already has money or that can flee is gonna flee. But as far as Britain, they're not even near anything. Like the only reason immigrants come from France when they're already in Europe to your country is because you guys offer way more benefits than France. That's why there's literally a bunch of dinghy boats floating between France and the UK. And y'all just let them come in. No one stops them or anything. You guys don't have an ICE or anyone that deports all the illegal alien immigrants.
Well, we do. So we've got in terms of a border force, it doesn't work in the same way that it does in the UK, in the United States, because first of all, it's not on land. So my first question to you would be, if you saw dinghies coming across the channel, would you let them come to the shore, or would
No.
you France?
We have dinghies coming to Florida. We don't come to shore.
No, that's different because the Atlantic and if it's coming through, I guess it would become via the
How
Atlantic.
far is it between France and the UK by miles, by nautical
Also
miles?
20 miles.
20 miles? Only 20 miles.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, well, between South Florida and Cuba, it's almost 100 miles. It's
Yeah.
almost
So
100 miles to land. So even though it's 100 miles, it's 5 times as far. We still either send them back or we arrest them and we deport them instantly.
okay. So how would you send them back to France?
Well, we probably wouldn't send them back to probably send them to Africa or
So
India or wherever they came from.
you you would let them on the shore,
We would put them in jail instantly. We wouldn't put them inside
but
and run around.
you would let them come.
We would instantly fill up a plane and send them out. Right? Depending on what they have, we might sink their boat.
But so you would advocate for sinking their boats?
I mean, if they look like they're drug smugglers, yeah, I've seen this
Well, they're not. They're
before,
not.
haven't you?
They're not drug smugglers, and you can't just do that based on theory alone. You have to have some actual basis for that, because then that would be a
We
war.
have satellite imagery. We can see a coin, the date on a coin that's like this big from the space.
Okay, so let's say that there's a boat. You know that it doesn't have drugs on it. Would you let it land on UK shores?
No. I would say don't let it land in UK shores. No, because it's right there. They drove 20 miles. No, I'd say
You
no.
would.
Go
You,
back.
you wouldn't let it land in the United States. You wouldn't push it back to France. So what would you do?
I would probably push it back. I wouldn't even tell them. I wouldn't even deport them. I would just say, I don't care where y'all go, but you ain't coming here. Go back to France. It's 20 miles away.
So ultimately, that would lead to people drowning in the sea, including children.
I mean, they're going to drown anyway. There's already been countless
No,
of
they're
them
not.
drowning.
No, they're not.
There has. Look at UK between France drownings.
Yeah, there are cases where people have drowned, but they will definitely drown if you don't send them back to France or bring them to UK shores.
Then they can be sent back to France. I said they can go back to France if they want. They can go any direction they want. They just can't stay near the UK. They got to turn the boat around and go back the other way.
How would you send them back to France?
On the same boat they came on.
How would you do it though? If France said no, what would you do?
Well, it's not up to France. They came there illegally. They're
It's
already
not.
in
Well,
France.
it's not up to France what goes on to French shores, but it's up to the
Well,
United
then they
States.
can go on to Germany. They can go somewhere else. Like I said, I don't really care if they come. They're not coming into Britain. That's it. Like I don't care if they go to
But this,
France. I don't care if they go to Spain. I don't care if they go to Germany.
this is what I mean about governing. When it comes to these choices, it's not simple. Like I don't care.
It is simple. 20 miles. If they're going 60 miles per hour, I know you have the kilometer system, but if they're going 60 miles per hour, which isn't very fast in a speedboat or a regular boat, they can get back home in 20 minutes.
Back home being France.
Yeah, we have boats in Florida. If we were going to go that same amount of distance, we could get back home in 20 minutes.
I think right. Let's just kind of reverse.
Why does it matter if a foreign invader drowns in water? They are not supposed to cross to begin with. Like, why are you taking on responsibility that does not benefit the citizens of your own country?
Well, first of all, they do.
Like, why are you taking on responsibility that does not benefit the citizens of your country? In fact, it destroys everything. It lowers wages.
But well, it doesn't. But first and foremost,
It does. They work illegally, don't they? Do they have to have
like,
papers to work in England?
like it or not, whether you like it or not, they are human beings. And ultimately, and I know that's considered to be radical, or it's considered to be a snowflake or lefty or whatever. They are ultimately human beings, first and foremost. And whatever people put in chats and whatever people think, like in terms of labeling these people as drug smugglers or terrorists or whatever it may be, you've been radicalized to a point where you strip human beings, children as young as 2 and 3 years old that have landed on British shores with their face in the sand, dead, that people in this country have had to pick up because of inaction. And they don't. I don't know how people can advocate for people to just drown in the water. And that
Well, that's exactly why those illegal alien immigrants should be put in prison for like 10 years. If they do manage to make it on the soil, they should be put in prison for 10 to 20 years because they literally risk the life of their family and their 2-year-old or 3-year-old. That person should go to prison.
Where would you go? Say if you were in Palestine at the moment and you managed to flee somehow, or you're in Iran and you managed to flee, or if you're in Sudan and you managed to flee, or Ukraine and you managed to flee, where would you go? Can you
Where would
imagine
I
if
go? Depends
who
which one. Which
would
passport do
take
I
you
have?
with
Huh?
your mentality? Who would take you?
With a Ukrainian passport, who would take me?
Yeah, with your
The country of Georgia. They have they let every single passport come in.
with your mentality, with that mindset of
Yes, they would let you in because you come in legally. You come with your passport, you go through the airport, you flee there.
okay,
There you go.
okay. So I believe that legal
If you're
routes.
talking about you don't have a passport, or you don't have any documents, where would I go with my mentality? Someone spammed UK, but you're obviously talking about my mentality of spamming sending the boat back. But I would just simply follow the rules and go to a country that legally allows me, and there's plenty of them. You want to know why that these people don't go to? Like I said, do you know why they leave France to come to the UK? It's not because they're coming for a better life. They're not even fleeing. They legally can't even. And the United States law, if they go to France first and they're living there, they can't just flee to the United States. They already fled. They have to apply for asylum in the first country they land in. The first safe country they land in, they have to apply for asylum there. They can't
You
just jump country to country. The
you have
only
a
reason they're jumping country to country is because they know that you guys don't send them back and you don't put them in prison for very long, if at all.
well, we do send people back that whose asylum claims are denied.
Very few of them. And it
That's
takes it's like a year-long process. So you let them stay in your country. You let them enter your country for a year or maybe years if you can never find them, and then you send them back if you can finally find them.
Yeah, because so right in terms of legal routes. So what we're talking about here, if we're going to find common ground, is would you advocate for legal routes
Yeah.
to apply? So in this country, I don't know
I
about.
don't think Ukraine would take you, no offense. Ukraine's a shithole. Why would I flee America to go to Ukraine?
Okay,
I mean, all Soviet countries are kind of shitholes, to be honest with you. And I lived in one of them, and they have nice things about them. You know, they have nice things about them, but living in it for like 10 years, 20 years is kind of shithole. But I don't know.
right.
Trump's TR3B disclosure hat. TR3 stars blue. I don't know what you're talking about. Conspiracy theory, man. But go ahead.
I was going to say, so with legal routes, I don't know what the case is in the United States again. I don't live in the United States, but with the United Kingdom currently, with the successive Tory government, so we had Conservatives in for 14 years who hollowed out the immigration system. So you couldn't apply. Well, they hollowed out everything really. They stripped to give tax breaks to millionaires and super wealthy people. They ended up stripping public
Well, they should
service.
have tax breaks. That's one of the reasons that you guys don't have very much innovation. And that's
That's
one of
not.
the reasons that the middle class suffers because your taxes are too hard. Taxes only affect the middle class. They don't affect rich people. Rich people will never pay their taxes no matter what. There's
Yeah. So
nothing you can do to make them pay their taxes. I'm sure you
most
already know plenty of people have fled the UK to go live in Dubai because they make a fuck ton of money and they don't want to pay 60% in taxes.
right. So my point was that if you hollow out the immigration system, and legal routes aren't funded properly, you're going to get a backlog of people who aren't being processed. So they stay in your country for longer, which means that they take from the system for longer. And it's this kind of inevitable cycle where it just keeps on going round and round, where people aren't being processed. There are more people coming in, and then you can't find out who has a legal right to stay in the country and who needs to go back to whichever country they travelled from. So what you're advocating for, again, it sounds like to me, is to fund immigration legal routes properly, which would reduce the amount of illegal immigration or the amount of small boats that would be coming across the channel. By the channel, I mean.
What would I do in the UK? I would probably say I would probably do exactly what Trump would do. I would say no Muslim countries can come into America for a couple years. We're gonna still have legal immigration, but we're not gonna have tourist visas from any of these Muslim countries because we don't want these people to come here and overstay their visas and end up living here. So we're not gonna have tourists from Pakistan, India, or any countries in the Middle East.
India is a Hindu country.
Well, I know, but Pakistan, India, all those countries.
So you mean brown countries?
No, I mean all the countries where the illegal immigrants come from, where they flood in the millions.
You don't get illegal immigrants from India.
And not even, I mean, we could have some. Yeah, we should even definitely change the demographic, obviously, because
So what you're
if we've been incentivizing brown people, then why can't we incentivize white immigrants?
well, what's the difference between them?
The difference is, first off, these people are coming to this country illegally with no education, so we can open up legal pathways for
But you
white people to come in.
The point you made was that you would stop Muslims coming into the country, and then you said
Yes,
India.
because there has been a lot of terrorist attacks
hang
in
on.
America. Muslims are 87% of the global terror attacks, and not just Muslims. I would also add Indians, Hindus. So fine, Muslims and Hindus. Why Indians? Because they have a population of 1.2 billion, and they can easily invade a country, a small country like the UK, via their pure statistical numbers.
What country are they invading?
Your country?
What, the country that we colonized India? We have agreements with.
Yeah,
India.
You literally left the only good thing in India, which was the railway system, and they fucking destroyed it. So you really want the same people that couldn't even maintain your railway system to come into your fucking country and destroy it too? If they could make India great, why the fuck is it a shithole country then? I'm not saying to ban all Indians. I'm saying to let an Indian person come in legally. There should be an extensive, lengthy process.
Yeah,
just like we shouldn't let people from Somalia come into the UK or America because statistically speaking, they have a 68 level IQ.
Would you say you have that level of IQ?
No, I have a much more intelligent IQ. That's why I don't scam the government for welfare.
That's a Trump thing to say.
No, it's statistically true. All you do is Google it. What's the average Somali IQ? They have an inbreeding level of 78%. 78% of them inbreed.
At least be
honest. They have the highest cousin marriage rate.
Hang on a minute. At least be honest about what you truly think. If it's the case that you think that white people have a higher IQ than people from other nations, or Americans have a higher IQ.
You can see IQ by continent.
Right, okay, so if you truly
believe America and Europe have really high IQs, Asia has very high IQs as well. Asia has higher IQs than white countries.
This is ultimately about.
You don't have to have a high IQ to immigrate. That's not what I'm advocating for. What I'm advocating for is if your IQ is so low that as soon as you enter America, you can apply for social welfare because you're literally mentally retarded and the government has to give you money because you're retarded, then I don't think you should be able to immigrate to our country unless you're adding something of value.
Let me ask you a question then. The first thing you advocated for was to ban Muslim countries. Then it wasn't Muslim country. It was India and which was a predominantly
any country with a large population that is mass immigrating to other countries in the multi-millions.
Well, the United States has 320 million people. So should the United Kingdom just say no to all American citizens coming into the United Kingdom if they want to move here?
First off, those are people of value.
Or is that because they're white that they should be allowed?
If you come through the legal way, then that's fine. Yeah, but a country that's been experiencing trauma like America or the UK, UK should ban countries from immigrating. They should ban tourists from entering. We've banned 86 countries from entering the United States.
We've banned 167. If you had to make the decision,
it's not a shithole country, you pelican. What did I just call it? Did I call it a shithole country? Sometimes it slips out. There are very nice parts of the UK, but when I'm talking about shithole country, I'm specifically talking about one area, but it is spreading. I'm talking about one area. I'm talking London, Luton, Croydon, all those different areas over there on the other side of England. They're having serious issues.
Okay. If you had to make what would be the criteria for somebody to come into the United States? And if you were to run the government, would it be if you're Muslim, it's no. If you're from India or a Hindu, it's no. And if you have a low IQ, it's no.
No, it's not based on religion. It's your country is Muslim.
India is not a Muslim country.
Well, that's why I said Hindu.
So Hindus as well.
Okay, there's many classifications. First off, we should ban all immigration from multiple countries from years and years and years. We have 30 million illegal alien immigrants in our country. 30 million. That's almost bigger than your entire country's population. We have an undocumented people.
Let me blow your mind. You are a descendant of immigrants.
Yes, my family came here legally. They didn't come here like criminals. So they didn't pillage.
You've just said that you would ban all Muslims from coming into the country legally. Or would you let Muslims come in legally?
It would be a temporarily ban until we figure out the immigration
Wouldn't so
problem in
it's
our
not through
country.
legal routes. So it's not
Huh?
through legal then. So it would have to be through a legal route. If somebody wanted to come to the United States that was an
No, they
immigrant,
couldn't come at all until we sort out our immigration problem.
so what do you do if they right? Okay, this is where your argument isn't coherent.
It is. They can't come into our country until we start cleaning up our immigration system. We have
what is it about?
we have a
What
lot of
about,
fake visas. We have 30 million undocumented people. That's half the population of your country. 30 million undocumented people. 30 million killers, rapists, people that we don't know what they do or why they're here or who
would
they
you ban
are.
would you ban Indians from coming into the country?
I wouldn't ban people based on their race. It's not about
I,
race.
I,
It's
would you ban,
about their country. I don't care if it's a white man coming from India. If they're a white man coming from India, they have an Indian citizenship. No, they're not going to be allowed in our country. So it doesn't matter about skin color or race.
what is it about India then?
It is their country, their culture, and the amount of pure people they have, and the amount of illegal immigrants that have already entered the country.
How many Indians have entered the United States illegally?
There's no telling because all these people are undocumented in the millions.
Hang on a minute, but it's Trump that says that he does know how many people come into the country.
Well, it's an estimate. He says it's an estimate, but it's around 25 to 30 million illegal people.
Illegal people. So how many of those are Indians?
God separated us for a reason, someone says. India is a shithole country. That's literally one of the reasons why they can't come here.
God separated for a reason, you fucking idiot. What do you mean God separated?
He gave us different nations.
Right, newsflash, God isn't real. I'm going to be the first person to say it.
Well, if you're going to, this is not a religious debate, but God is real.
No, it clearly is because you're advocating for the way.
I'm just reading a comment. I'm just reading a comment that I agree with.
You agree with it, but what I'm saying to this guy, I'm not going to say it to you, but what I'm going to say to this guy is that if you are ultimately what you're doing there is you're saying that one religion has superiority over another, and God.
Well, even if you're not religious, morally, yes, certain religions have superiority than other religions.
Are you a Christian?
Yes, obviously, if we look at the ethics and the morals, based on your morality.
The morals. The Christianity that you follow doesn't have any ethics and morals that are in line with what Jesus Christ preached.
It does. You don't even know what kind of Christian I am, first off.
Do you think Jesus Christ would vote for Donald Trump?
Yes.
You think Jesus Christ would vote for Donald Trump?
Yes, he would vote for Trump before he voted for Kamala. He wouldn't vote at all. I don't think Jesus would vote.
I'm not saying he would vote for Kamala Harris either, but I tell you what he wouldn't advocate for is sending people back to countries that are war-torn countries because they came in illegally.
Yes, he would. He said follow the law of the land.
What
Read Romans 10. He specifically says the leaders of countries are endowed by God and you should follow the law of the land. Even if you disagree with it, you shouldn't go to other countries and disrespect their law.
Right, so Jesus Christ preached about community, and he preached about people being together and breaking bread with people that you might not agree with.
Yes, you should do that as well. But if you commit a crime, Jesus wanted the law to be enforced. He literally talks about it. Open your computer, pull up Romans 10 and start reading through it. But here's another chat from Lord Nairuku, and I agree with this 100%. He said, immigration is about vetting away problem individuals and the culture they practice and to see if the culture they practice is compatible with America. You can't force compatibility. Do you think all cultures get along? Do you think Muslim cultures get along with your culture? Do you think Islam gets along with the UK? Go ahead, sorry.
I agree with processing people. Of course I do. I've at no point said that I don't.
So you don't believe in open borders then?
No. When did I say I believed in open borders?
Okay, I'm just clarifying. But you don't think that people should be kicked away because their culture is incompatible? Or they should go through an extensive process. No, if their culture is incompatible, they don't have a job or a career or a specific type of visa they're applying for, then they shouldn't come.
What do you mean by culture incompatible?
For instance,
what would you consider incompatible with the United States?
Well, I don't know, someone from a country where they marry 6-year-olds and 5-year-olds openly in public, and you see kids getting married in the street.
Yeah. Okay. So what country? Right. Okay. Yeah. So you think just because? What if the individual doesn't believe that?
It doesn't matter about the individual. It's the country's values. It's the morality of the West.
Is India one of those countries?
I don't know about India, honestly. I've never been there. I don't know about Indian culture too much, but I would have to say that they do some, They have other things that I can say that I disagree with. If you want me to give you a specific example, like they have a celebration where they bathe in cow shit. I don't want that kind of celebration or culture coming into America.
Okay. Would you advocate for someone that has been held civilly liable for sexual assault to enter the United States?
Civilly liable? They don't have a criminal charge. If it's a civil lawsuit, I mean, I don't know if I think they can enter legally. They can enter your
That,
country legally too.
I don't say whether or not they can. What I would say is,
It
what I asked,
depends what the
would
law
you?
says about it.
So if someone came from another country, doesn't matter what country it was, but let's say arguably from Mexico or Colombia or the United Kingdom, say if it was me and they were held civilly liable for sexual assault,
Well,
would you have them into the country?
if they were sued for sexual assault and sued for money, would I let them into the country? I don't know, but Trump wasn't born
What do
in
you mean you don't
Mexico.
know? What do you mean you don't know?
Well, there's no criminal proof. There's no evidence that he's guilty of the crime.
This civil proof. That's still
Civil proof is just other people's opinions. It's just about
no,
convincing people.
not. No, it's not.
There
Someone
was
else's
no
opinion.
evidence presented in the
Oh,
specific
there is a
case.
court process. There is a court process where there is evidence presented.
And you're telling me all courts are just and none of them are corrupt? Like
Right.
I
Okay.
said, it depends on the
You notice
country's
that I
law.
haven't asked
I
about
would
Donald
probably
Trump?
say no, but depending on the country's law.
Right. Okay. So let's be
I don't
honest.
think there's a single country on this earth when you go through passport control, all the questions they ask you is about criminal charges. They never ask you if you were sued.
So hang on a minute. Would you stop somebody that was held civilly liable, or actually, no, not even civilly liable? Say if they were held criminally liable for sexual assault, would you allow them into the country?
No, and then once again, depending on
Okay,
depending on the country's laws. I'm not here to make laws for every single
the
country. I'm
United
just worried
States.
about our country, huh?
United States. Say if the United States.
No, that would be illegal. You can't enter the United States with a background like that.
What about a civil court then? In the
Well,
United States.
technically you can because they don't ask you about your
I'm not
lawsuits.
technically. I'm saying, would you?
Would I advocate for that?
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know all the ins and outs.
You're
of
not
this
answering
story.
the question. Why
Probably
are you not?
no. I already told you probably no several times.
You wouldn't allow them into the country.
No, but I don't think there's a way you can have
So
them
why then
report
would
that.
you vote for a man who has been held civilly liable?
Because he's a United States
No.
American citizen and he was legally
Oh,
born here
so
with
it's
a
okay.
false case,
Hold
with
the
a
United
fake case that I know about.
you would hold an immigrant to a higher standard than the the
Yes,
president.
I would hold an immigrant to a higher standard than someone that was naturally born here. Yes.
You would hold them to a higher standard than the president
Yes.
of the United States.
The president of the United States have fake cases. What evidence do they have
Fake
that he was
cases?
What evidence do they have Trump was liable for rape? What evidence?
What?
I'll
Well,
wait.
sexual assault in that case.
Okay, sexual assault. What evidence?
I don't know what evidence. You don't know what evidence.
Okay, so why would you
We
instantly
weren't
say
in
someone's
court.
guilty when they never went to a criminal trial?
Okay. Right. So what?
If you had a friend that got sued for drug dealing and someone took him to court and said, "You owe me $20,000. You stole my drugs," would you instantly think that he's a drug dealer if he pled in court?
What I would say is that if somebody is held civilly liable for a crime in court and a jury of 12 people have unanimously said that they committed that crime based on the evidence beyond reasonable doubt, yes, they committed that crime.
It's not beyond reasonable doubt. That's the thing. Civil is different. Civil court case.
Courtroom? Were you in the courtroom?
No, but for civil trials, you don't have to be found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's only for criminal trials.
What is it for civil then?
For civil, I think it's 2/3 of the jury.
We don't like him, so we're just
literally that's it. Just the majority of the jury has to say that he's guilty. That's it. Just one more person has to vote on it.
Evidence?
I don't even know what kind of it's civil for a jury.
Yes, civil. It depends on what the crime is.
Also, they had to change the reason that she couldn't bring him to court because it was 35 years ago. So you're telling me it's not suspicious? You don't think there's a problem in our country?
Okay.
You don't think there's a problem in society of women making false allegations for money 30, 40, 50 years later?
I absolutely do believe that in some cases.
What about Johnny Depp? Was Johnny Depp not found civilly liable for rape in court, and then he went to a trial at a criminal court, and they said that he never did that?
That was a civil court as well. That wasn't a criminal court.
Okay, both of them were civil courts. Both of them were civil courts. He got found liable for grape, and then he went back to civil court again, and they said that no, he never did grape.
No.
So you're telling me that this doesn't
That's
happen?
not what the second civil case.
They found out she was lying.
No, it was about defamation in an article. It wasn't. It was about in a specific. I think it was the Washington Post article. So it wasn't.
And for defamation, you have to prove they did that crime. They can't prove that he did anything they say he did. That's why he got out of it.
If somebody, say, if I came, or not even
found liable of grape, the suit is out there. Oh, okay, and Johnny Depp was found liable of grape.
If someone
Johnny Depp was found liable of grape, and now everyone knows that he wasn't a grapist because he went back to court. So there is fake grape cases out there. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
And would you say the most powerful man in the world is more likely to get fake grape cases than anyone else?
Say that again.
If you're one of the most wealthy and the most powerful man on this planet, do you think you're more likely to get fake allegations thrown against you?
Just so you know that Johnny Depp has never been found guilty of rape or sexual assault.
He was found liable in court, just like Trump was. He was found liable, I'm pretty sure, and then they decided he wasn't.
No, Johnny Depp has never been found liable for rape or sexual offence in any civil court.
Let's see, found liable. Let's take a look, see if I can find it. Guilty and liable is entirely different.
Trust me, bro.
Let's see. Oh yeah, that was two different cases. One was in the UK where they said he was liable of grape, and the other was in the US where they said he wasn't liable of grape. And a separate the one that he sued, I think this was they were proved to civil standard. Let's see. What the fuck does this even mean?
Right, so it's saying that in a UK paper, I can't remember which paper it was, but it was in the UK. He took it to a court in the UK anyway. But that it was that the newspaper was allowed to call him a wife beater, a quote wife beater. They were allowed to use that
because they found that was legitimate. But then he went to another court in America, and they said, "Sir, is a grapist. Is not a grapist." So see how two different courts can have two different decisions.
No. Right. We're getting.
Your boy has sit the fuck down. What the fuck are you talking about? This is basically the same exact thing. They found him liable for beating his wife in the UK. Then they found him not liable for any of that shit they said.
This fucking Brit hasn't.
So there you go. Do you already agree that the most powerful man on the earth, one of the most wealthy men on the earth, is more likely to receive fake allegations against him than any other man?
If somebody overstayed their visa in the United States.
Don't change the question.
Oh, did you?
Do you think the most powerful, intelligent man, not intelligent, but one of the most powerful, intelligent man would be more likely to be found, would be more likely to be targeted for women to get money out of him?
Yeah, of course, targeted. Yeah, I've no doubt.
So he would be more likely to be targeted by multiple women trying to get money off of him and sue him in court.
Well, there is the argument for targeting. Another thing there is still a burden of proof.
What proof did they have? You barely have to show any proof.
What do you mean you barely have to show any proof? Why do you not believe them?
Because literally, you agreed with me. There's been many cases that were fake.
I'm not talking about the person that's accused him. I'm talking about the people that are in the jury.
Because they weren't there. That's why I don't believe them.
Yeah, that's why we have trials and evidence is presented.
What evidence?
We weren't there. So we don't know what the evidence is. What I'm saying is that they do, and they made a decision. If it was the other way around, if they found that he wasn't,
so you're telling me these people don't have bias against Donald Trump? They just never heard of Donald Trump before.
That's what. Right. Okay. I don't know if you know how court cases work, but they do. Before a trial starts, they vet the people, including both prosecution and defense. So Trump's defense attorneys and lawyers would be able to dismiss jury members based on questions that they are asked in terms of their bias and their history.
What
That's
history?
the whole point of the process, so that things like bias don't come into it. You have to have an unbiased jury.
But that's impossible. That's what I'm telling you. It's impossible to have an unbiased jury.
We don't put him on trial. We don't put anybody on trial.
Well, that because it's the Trump files? What the fuck are you talking about?
Trump and other people that are in his position of power that are of any significance, because someone might have an opinion.
So let me explain the main difference between liable and criminal. If it was such a big deal, he should have been charged criminally. But if you don't have proof of it, you shouldn't be found liable. So the difference between a criminal trial and a liable trial is standard of proof. The standard of proof to be criminally found is you have to be beyond a reasonably doubt guilty. But for a civil trial, it has to be more likely than not, according to the opinion of the jury, which is literally just one person. It can be 10 people there, and 6 of them say guilty, and 4 of them say not guilty. Or it can be 5 and 6. 5 people say he's not guilty, 6 people say he's guilty.
In Trump's
they don't have to have any proof. They don't have to have they don't even have to have evidence. All it has to be is more than likely than not. Which means he wasn't found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
But he was.
And by the way, he didn't even get freaking. He never even did anything with Grape. The thing is, 2 women accused him of. It says 2 women accused him of sexual assault, touching them inappropriately, and only one woman actually, only one woman won. Or what happened with the other woman?
If somebody overstays a visa, and they stayed in the country for longer than they should have done, do you think that they should be removed from the country?
Yeah, they should be deported.
Do you think they should be tried criminally?
No, probably not if they didn't commit a crime.
Okay. But would you say that staying in the country for longer than you should do is a crime?
Yes. It depends on the country. I mean, obviously, if you're staying longer than you should, then by definition, it's a crime. But
so in the United States at the moment, you are only held. It is a civil crime or a civil crime if somebody overstays a visa. So if
it's not a civil crime, it's a federal misdemeanor.
It's a civil crime.
A civil crime is like a ticket. It's a federal crime. Yeah, it's a misdemeanor.
It's not a criminal charge. You wouldn't get a criminal charge.
It is a criminal charge. You can get you can get time in prison for a misdemeanor. The only reason they don't go to prison most of the time is because they just get deported instead. Look it up. Is it a misdemeanor or is it a civil offense? A civil offense is like a speeding ticket. I've already heard this argument before. It's not like a speeding ticket. Entering the country illegally is a federal misdemeanor. And the second time you do it, it's a felony, which is a top-ranking criminal charge if you don't know.
Staying in the United States past expiration of visa.
Oh, you mean staying past? I thought you meant entering illegally. Yeah, staying past your passport. Yeah, that's a civil violation.
Yeah, so in that case, if they went to court and they were found guilty of that, would you just say no? It depends on the court, it depends on the people. It could be bias.
That's obviously proven. That's proven with the passport stamp.
Yeah, no, it was proven in Trump's case too. What
was it proven with?
A jury and evidence.
That's not evidence. You don't know what the evidence is.
Neither do you.
I'm sitting here researching for the last 10 minutes if there is any evidence. I didn't hear a single piece of evidence.
Was I in the courtroom?
No, but you can research and know what evidence.
So do you think
if you overstay your visa, you should be deported or no?
Yeah, I think you should be deported. Of course you should.
Okay, let me give you the okay, that's great. We agree there. Let me give you the evidence of what evidence they had. They had no video, they had no DNA, there was 0 third-party witness. What evidence is there? No DNA, no third-party witness, and no video. Literally, all it was is he said versus she said. And this is the same woman, E. Jean Carroll, that's called, said on her TV show, if you don't know who this woman is, she has a TV show. She was a star, but she was a fucking maniac. She said that some people might consider Grape sexy or hot, that she takes dating advice from her pit bull. She just grabs him by the balls. She just grabs him by whatever. She just grabs onto the men.
Not talk about grabbing things.
Well, Trump loves to grab things, but he at least gets the woman's consent.
That's not what he said in the video. He says
he said he just grabs them by it. Doesn't mean they didn't say he couldn't.
That is sexual assault.
How is that assault?
Well, you just grab them by the pussy.
Yeah, your girlfriend or your wife that give you permission.
You're adding context. You're adding things
that gives them permission. You just grab them by it.
Yeah,
if they give you permission.
Oh, how is that? If I walked over to you and did that to you, would you consider that sexual assault?
If I gave you permission, I ain't giving you permission.
Well, of course
but
you gave me permission. But in that situation, you say, if they gave me permission to grab them by the then they would do it now.
Well, that part was kind of unsaid, wasn't it?
When did he say that? He didn't say
that. That part was kind of unsaid, wasn't it?
He said he said,
everyone used to talk like that. And by the way, I don't know if you ever talked to your dad or your grandpa or someone older in your family. Like there was literally people that guys used to do that all the fucking time. And none of these women were screaming sexual assault. But guess what? He literally did get permission for it. When a woman is throwing themselves on you, and they give you permission, that's permission. This has to be satire, right? No, this isn't satire. And don't get me started with fucking Australia, bozo. What did this guy say? You're getting cooked in absolute specimen? What the fuck are you talking about? From Sweden? Shout out Sweden. We got Europe in the building, huh?
And NATO as well. If this was the differences, I think, in when it comes to MAGA Republicans and the mindset that you're in, and say the mindset that I'm in currently, is I'm consistent with what I think. If
I'm consistent with everything I think. Tell me one single thing that's inconsistent.
Let me make my point.
Go ahead.
If Obama was held civilly liable of sexual assault, if Biden was held civilly liable of sexual assault,
Biden was accused of grape. I don't go around calling him a rapist, do I?
Hang on. If Boris Johnson, if anybody was held civilly liable, I would not vote for them to be the president or the prime minister of either the United States or the United Kingdom. Whereas you, if it was Obama that was held civilly liable, if it was Biden that was held civilly liable, you and Trump would be using that rightfully against them because they would have been held civilly liable. But when it's Trump, he can do no wrong. When he says he grabs women by the pussy, he can do no wrong. When he's mentioned more times in the Epstein files than Harry Potter in the Harry Potter series, and Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, in the Bible.
Both of those things are incorrect.
Excuses for him. It's a cult. You are all in a mindset.
Okay, first off, it's not a cult. Second off, Biden was accused of grape before he ran for president. Not a single person brought it up or mentioned it. Trump never used it. No one ever talked about it. The great victim of Joe Biden ran away. The great victim of Joe Biden ran away to Russia because she was scared that Biden was going to abuse her and further do harm to her. She literally left the country and ran away. Biden's grape victim. Biden's own daughter was accused of grape by his dad. She said that her dad graped her. She put it in her personal diary, and her diary got exposed. Donald J. Trump is the only president that has ever snitched on Epstein. The whole reason that Trump is in those Epstein files is because he's listed in those Epstein files by the FBI for being the only person that put Epstein in prison. The whole reason Epstein got arrested the first time was because Trump snitched on Jeffrey Epstein. The second time Jeffrey Epstein got arrested, Trump snitched again. Every single time Jeffrey Epstein went to prison, it was because of Trump. Now, let me tell you the difference between us and the Democrats. The Democrats will say, oh, Joe Biden didn't grape that woman. He didn't grape that woman. She just ran away to Russia because she's a liar. She didn't grape that woman. Even though his own daughter said she graped him. Hunter Biden was having sex with minor children, and it was all in his laptop, and they never prosecuted him for it.
It's terrible.
Millions of dollars from Ukraine and China. We can keep going down the list. And Boris Johnson, he probably took billions of dollars from someone that let all those illegal alien immigrants in that country.
What? How is this conversation ended up from sexual assault to illegal immigration and Boris Johnson? What I'm saying is that I'm consistent in what I'm saying. If
you're not consistent in what you're saying,
what's not consistent about what I'm saying?
You would literally rather support Biden or Obama.
When did I say I supported Biden or Obama or Obama? I'm from the UK. When did I say I'd rather support them? When did I say that?
Well, it seems like it. You brought up Obama and Biden Obama has allegations of fucking men forcefully. We're just gonna sit
What?
here and act like
Let me ask you a
Obama
question.
doesn't have gay lovers that said he did unthinkable,
Where am I
disgusting
not
things
consistent?
against him. We're just gonna
Where
sit here and say
where
that Biden doesn't have rape allegations from his own daughter.
where am I not consistent?
You're not consistent on your immigration thing.
We're talking about sexual assault, not immigration.
Well, I can't give you any examples for the UK on that because I don't know your politicians.
What I'm saying is if somebody is held civilly liable of sexual assault, they are not fit for the office of the President of the United States.
But you're not holding steady because at the same time you said doesn't mean they're guilty. Did you not say that? Did you not say there's false allegations?
Yeah, of course there are false allegations, but if they're held
okay, so then what makes them unqualified? Just because someone puts, if we start putting this ridiculous rule that if you sue someone for something and they plead out in court or they get found liable with no evidence, there was no video evidence, there was no DNA evidence, there was no third-party witness. She called Grape sexy multiple times. She accused 14 other men of Grape and tried to sue all of them and lost. And well, I mean, what other evidence do you need that this is a setup? There's no DNA, there's no video, there's no third-party witness. She sued 13 other men. She lost all of her other lawsuits trying to get money off men, calling them predators and grapists. She called Grape sexy before. She said that she just goes up to the men she wants and grabs them like her dog. I mean, what other evidence do you need? All of the evidence is sitting clear as day in front of you, and you say someone's guilty. So in your opinion, every single time a president is running for office, if they get sued for Grape or accused of Grape, they shouldn't run for president anymore.
If Joe Biden was held civilly liable of sexual assault, would you vote?
They didn't even take it to court because the corrupt system, he threw it out of court.
That's not my point. What I'm saying is, where I'm saying I'm consistent and you're not, is that if Obama, Biden, Boris, it doesn't matter who it is. I couldn't care less if it was Jesus.
If Biden got accused of Grape and they took it to court and there was no DNA, there was no video, there was no third party, I would have to say he's criminally not guilty. He's not a criminal. He's criminally not guilty. That's what I would say. That's exactly where I'm consistent at. So what's the difference?
The difference is that if in the event that Biden was held civilly liable of sexual assault,
I would literally say that if there's no DNA, there's no video, and no third party, that he's not guilty.
You're not letting me speak.
Go ahead.
The difference is, what I'm saying is what I would exclude anybody that was held either civilly liable or criminally liable of sexual assault, evidence and all that sort of bullshit. If a jury has found you that the evidence is enough to say that beyond reasonable doubt that you are held civilly liable.
It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not how the court systems work.
It is.
It has to be more than likely to be found liable. For criminal cases, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. Does it sound like he was beyond a reasonable doubt guilty when they had no DNA, no video, no third-party witness? Does that sound guilty beyond a reasonable doubt to you? Be honest.
Trump refused to give DNA. But if
he used his lawyer to defend his case like he defended his case. If the judge decides something, that's up to the judge. He's fighting his case like everyone else should fight their case.
What I'm saying, that's
fair. Fair is fair. If the judge decides what he should give and shouldn't give, if the judge decides he doesn't have to give DNA, the judge says he doesn't have to give DNA.
What I'm saying is
blame that on the judge. Don't blame that on Trump's good defense team.
I'm not blaming it on Trump. What I'm saying is that you've just said there that there is no DNA evidence, as if that in some way that DNA. The reason there's no DNA evidence is because Trump didn't hand over DNA.
Because he wasn't required to by law.
Yeah, but you've just said there's no DNA evidence, as if
there's no DNA evidence because the judge looked at the case and said there's no reason to collect DNA evidence.
Right. So
that's the only way they don't collect DNA evidence. In a murder trial, there's DNA evidence. You want to know why? Because they have proof that they need DNA evidence. In this case, there is no need for DNA evidence. And once again, what does the word liable mean? What does the word liable mean?
Are you held liable? Guilty?
Yeah, what does the word liable mean? What are they liable for? What's liable mean?
If you're held liable, I suppose it would mean in some way guilty.
No, it doesn't mean guilty. Liable means you're liable. Liable means you owe someone $5 million.
Oh, so they just do that aren't guilty then? Is that right? Is it they do that for people that aren't guilty then?
If he was going to be found guilty, he would have to go to criminal trial.
So in our
The
case,
difference between guilty and liable means you're responsible for money. You're responsible to pay the money. Guilty means that you committed a crime and that you're going to be going to prison and you're going to suffer consequences for the crime. The reasonable standard for guilty is beyond a reasonable doubt. The reasonable standard for being found liable, to be found liable, all it takes is one more person in that jury. 6 out of 10 people decide, one extra person decides you're guilty. That's all it takes.
Right, we're not going to agree on.
It just means you're legally responsible to pay the money. It doesn't mean that you're guilty. It doesn't mean you're a criminal.
You've been found responsible
to owe them money.
Why would it? Right. Okay. So they would only give money. So they would give money.
Legally answerable for money. Okay, lads, well done bit. You are both great. I don't know what you mean by bit. If you're trying to say this is like a fake debate or something, it's not.
If what I'm saying about you're inconsistent is that if Joe Biden was found civilly liable of sexual assault, you would use that against him.
I mean, I never brought it up once when people give me a reason to say that Biden's bad.
Or Obama, if Obama in it saying an alternate
universe. I would never bring up that. There's plenty of stuff to say.
If he was found civilly liable of sexual assault, both Trump, the Republicans, MAGA Republicans, and you yourself would be using that against him, wouldn't you?
Like I said, it depends case to case. If there's video evidence, if there's DNA evidence. I look at the evidence. I don't look at the person.
You look at the evidence? Really?
Yes.
Evidence?
I know you didn't look at the evidence. When I asked you what evidence they had, you didn't know what evidence they had. What is the first thing I did? I went and looked over at the evidence.
Yeah, you looked it up. Just now.
Yeah, I looked into it because I wanted to make sure what I was talking about was correct. There's no evidence.
There's no DNA because he hasn't given any DNA over.
Because he's not required to. Why is that? Because the judge decided that it's not necessary. Because there's no evidence that they need DNA for anything specifically.
I think it's a bit suspicious in that situation that if somebody isn't guilty, why would you not hand over DNA?
Because you don't have to legally. Why would you do something that you don't have to?
Would you not want to prove that no, it wasn't? I didn't do that.
Well, he doesn't have to. The judge decided not to.
Okay. Right. Should we move on to a different topic because I think we've exhausted this, going around in circles. Should we go back to the tea debate about how you became your own independent state again?
What do you mean, own independent state?
When you became your own independent state because of taxes on tea?
I don't know what you want to talk about there. You want to talk about how we whooped England's ass? I don't know.
The British Empire, I'll have you know. Okay.
I don't know. I want you to tell me what you want to do with the UK immigration problem. I know you feel like we exhausted that, but what would you do to fix it? Do you think there is an immigration problem in the UK?
I think there's a small boats crisis, yeah. I would agree on that, but I wouldn't say that we have an immigration problem in the UK, no.
You don't think you have an immigration problem?
No.
Why is that?
Because we need immigrants.
For what? For cheap labor?
No, no, not cheap labor, no, well-paid labor.
Like what? Most people that come here on boats are not well-educated.
Well, like I was saying, there's a small boats crisis, but you don't know what those people, whether their education is.
Well, why do most poor people have good education?
Well,
by the way, it's a lie. I just did a quick Google search. Jeannie Carroll did not have Trump's DNA on her dress.
Jeannie Carroll? Do you mean E. Jean Carroll?
Yeah, the woman that said that he was found liable, she did not have Trump's DNA. So that's one of the reasons that they decided not to. They didn't have any DNA to test or compare, so there was no reason for Trump to give his DNA.
Right. So on immigration, you said about, do you think poor people have a good education? It depends what you mean by poor. It's relative, isn't it?
Well, statistically speaking, most poor people are not college educated, and they're not very skilled speaking, or they're not very skilled at many different things, other than like I don't know, like construction or manual labor.
You don't think that's something that the UK needs or the United States needs is construction work?
We have construction's a high-paying job in the United States.
You're talking about intelligence.
Huh?
You were talking about intelligence.
I thought you were talking about, don't we need manual labor like construction workers? Didn't you just
Yeah,
say that?
yeah. But what you're saying there is the people on the boats that are coming over.
No, construction workers are intelligent, but they should be given to Americans. Those jobs should be American jobs because lots of people in America want to work
You asked me about
construction.
UK immigration.
Yeah, I said that these people don't need to come to your country because they're not very intelligent. One of the only jobs they would really do that would be
But you
good
said there
is construction.
that you've just
And
said
those need
there
to go to British citizens.
you've just said there that college education isn't the only factor that would mean whether or not somebody could contribute to an economy or not.
Well, it's not the only factor, but overall, they don't have very many skills. If they could contribute to
But
their economy, they would have probably done it
no.
in their country, and then they would have
How do
been
you know?
wealthy and probably moved legally.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because that's the truth.
What do you mean you can't say that you know something because it's the truth?
Every
Like,
single person that can make money, that has skills to make money, literally just goes out there and makes money. It doesn't matter what country they're in. Like, what do you mean?
what about Afghanistan? If somebody's in Afghanistan, do you think they could make the same wage or have the same quality of life that somebody in the UK could with the same education?
I mean, they don't have the same opportunities, but yeah, they could have the same
Exactly.
quality of
They come over
life.
to a country and try
They
and
could
find.
have the same quality if they're skilled. Yeah, they'll have the same quality as life.
So then, how would they apply for immigration status in the United Kingdom?
Well, I don't know if they can legally, can they?
Exactly. So that's why they come over illegally.
Okay, then they don't get to come to the UK. They have to pick another country. Boo-hoo, there's 195 other countries. Pick one.
But what? Right. Okay. Well, this is where we would disagree.
Coming
then.
to your country is not a God-given right. If they don't get to enter your country
No,
because your visa system doesn't allow them to, that's probably for a reason, isn't it? Or do you think it's a God-given right to be allowed to come into your country? Because I don't think it's a God-given right to immigrate to America.
There is a reason, and the reason tends to be, on to some level, racism and discrimination.
Why does it always go back to race?
Because it's about race.
It's not about race.
It is, of course it is. What's the difference between somebody from Afghanistan and somebody from the United States of America if it's not race?
If I told you, you asked me if someone from the United States immigrates legally, should they be able to?
Yeah,
yeah.
I've just clarified.
Okay, it's not about race; it's about statistics. If anything, it's more about religion than it is race. It's more about religion than it is race, and probably because there's a high rate of terrorism. 87% of terror attacks globally are committed by Muslims. I mean, what else should I tell you?
Do you think what the United States is doing at the moment in Iran is terrorism?
No.
Do you think it's a war crime? What they're doing?
87% of global terror. You can look this statistic up.
What Israel and the United States are doing? What Israel are doing in the United
States?
No,
we're fighting against radical Islam
in Palestine.
Palestine is Israel.
No, it's not. But
yes, it is. It's they pay taxes. Look it up. All you have to do is a simple Google search.
Just because you pay taxes doesn't mean that
if you look on a map, there is no country of Palestine. When you look on Google Maps, all you see is Israel and the Gaza Strip. It doesn't say Palestine. They're not separated.
Right, okay. We're not going to agree on that point.
And if you no, we don't have to agree. I can Google search it. Just you have your computer right in front of you. You have to look up, does the government of Israel own the West Bank? The answer is yes. They have the legal authority and the legal ownership of the West Bank.
Who's right? By who's right?
I already explained it to you. Britain gave them it.
Yeah, and we shouldn't have done. It's not our land to give.
Well, you're the guys that you see this place. I tell you to seize it.
I don't agree with that. I think the British Empire was a terrible thing.
Well, okay, then you should have just kept it to Israel the entire time.
We shouldn't have been involved in the first place. That's just what I'm. That's
because Judea literally existed, thousands of years before Palestine. In the year 136 years after Jesus died, 136 years after Jesus died, Syria Palestine became a thing. Palestine was never located in the West Bank. It was Syria Palestine. And that was on the other side of Israel, not where the current West Bank is. That was where Palestine originally was. And Islam didn't come around until 650 AD. And the quote-unquote Syria Palestines, they didn't move into Judea. The Syria Palestines, they didn't move to Judea until 550 years after Jesus died.
When did you just say that Islam became a religion?
About 500, I think it was 650 years after Jesus died.
One of the oldest religions. It's older than Christianity.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Islam is not older than Christianity.
Look it up on your Copilot or
I don't have to. It was made 600 years after Jesus died.
Right. So how did they get right? Okay.
Why don't Why? How did they mention Jesus in
I'm
the
typing the
Quran?
question. I'm
They
typing it.
mentioned. Do Muslims not consider Jesus as being a prophet?
Yeah. So then therefore you
They
would add
talk about Jesus'
not
life in the
prove anything.
Quran. So how did they talk about
Wrong.
Jesus' life in the Quran
So just,
if Islam was before Jesus?
right. I'm typing in. The question is, how old is the Islamic faith? 1,440 years old. How old?
So it happened 600 years after Jesus died. Yeah, here you go. You want to see on my computer? It says Christianity was created 2000, 26 years ago, obviously. Islam was created 1416 years ago.
All right.
So
Okay.
yeah, Christianity was before
I'll
Islam.
concede on that point. I'll concede on that point.
Okay. They're teaching you the wrong things in that Muslim country of yours, dude. They're teaching you that Islam was before Christianity. Did you
Hey,
also do you also wait, do you also think Islam is before Judaism? Did you believe that too? Or what do you think about that one?
I'm doubting everything now. Is Judaism older than Islam? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. You think
Well,
Judaism
I
is
know,
older than Islam?
I know that it's older than Christianity. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Christianity is older than Islam. Islam was the last Abrahamic religion created.
That's surprising. I didn't know that.
Yeah, first was Judaism, then was Christianity, then was Islam.
Can we get back into because I've conceded that?
Yeah,
So,
okay. Where were we? We were talking about Muslims coming in, or we were talking about Palestine and whatnot. Yeah,
no,
so
we were
Israel.
talking
So, like I told you before,
the original
Palestine
question.
wasn't created until 136 years after Jesus died.
The original question was about UK immigration, and then we ended up going on to.
Yeah, you said Israel is invading Palestine, and I said that's impossible because Palestine legally belongs to Israel. You can Google search it. And also,
Yeah,
Palestine wasn't
authority.
created until 136 years after Jesus died, and it was not even in the same place. It wasn't in the West Bank, it was in Syria, Palestine.
Okay.
Then 500 years after that, the Syrian Palestinians moved to what we would call now West Bank, and that was around the same time Islam was coming. So Israel was there first. So do I think that we should annihilate and unalive all the Palestinian women and children? No, I wouldn't say that. But the radical terrorists have to go, and Palestine has to be a part of Israel. It should not be under the jurisdiction of Hamas, because they literally elected those people in that area. And there's multiple governments running the area. I already know that there's multiple fractions that run the area. I forget what the second group is called, but
okay, can we get back on?
But as far as immigration, yeah, coming into a country from Afghanistan certain countries should be banned from entering. It's not because of race; it's because of statistics. Do you know how many Afghani nationals we've had that have done terror attacks on the United States soil? How many Afghani nationals have done terror attacks on the UK soil? Overall, their culture and their values do not align. Aren't they still marrying children in Afghanistan? Why would you want people from a country where they marry children to immigrate to your country? That's the cultural norms. Do you think that aligns with Britain?
Right-wing white supremacists in the UK and terrorism is on the rise, and it counts for about 1/4 of terrorism cases in the United Kingdom currently.
The rest must all be Muslims because you can Google search this right now. It's not the Jews that are doing the terror attacks. It's not the Christians. 86% of global terror attacks are by Muslims.
Okay, so say in the United
global terror attacks by Muslims. Google search that.
Demographic.
But if you guys in the comments have any questions, comments, drop some below. Smash that like button. Drop some super chats. No, there was Judea, which basically is the same thing as Israel. There's just a name change. And Judea is a Hebrew word, I believe. Anyway, so even I've heard some people the word Judea means Israel in Hebrew, but I don't know.
One moment.
So if they're marrying children, they have a completely different culture. They hate Christianity. They hate white people because literally in the Muslim religion, they think everyone has to convert or they have to die. That's what the jihadists believe.
So would you advocate for any? So Right. So extreme Islamist terrorist attacks account for 63% of terrorism charges in the UK. Extreme right wing accounts for 28%. Other, mixed and unclear, is 9%. So that could be left wing domestic extremism.
So literally all of it. I would if it's literally Muslim extremists are causing right wing extremists. That's what I would argue. So I would say that entire 25% would also be added to the Muslim extremists, because
20%.
most people that are upset, most young people upset in the UK are upset because they're being demographically replaced. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely not. No, it's a right-wing conspiracy point.
How is that a white ring conspiracy? If you grew up in a country, the entire country was literally white, and now you have a bunch of people that are coming to your country and replacing you by like millions.
What do you mean replacing?
Like they have the same culture as you. They're not going to keep your English culture going.
But who are they replacing?
They're replacing the otherwise. They're replacing the people's jobs. They're replacing the people's lives. They're taking houses that can go to Englishmen and English families.
They're integrating.
No, they're taking Englishmen's jobs, houses, everything.
What jobs?
They don't integrate. That's probably the problem. They don't assimilate. If they assimilated, if a country 100% assimilates with Western values, if these were just regular light-skinned olive males, because most people in Afghanistan aren't really even that brown. Some of them are brown, but a lot of them are kind of like light-skinned olive color. I would say that's fine. They can immigrate there. It's not about skin color. It's mostly about them assimilating. I would say it's more about religion than it is skin color, but it's not even about religion. It's more about them assimilating to the culture and the values, because in these countries, they're a lot different. But what did Gringos say? Whoever thinks America is a bad country to live in should move to a Muslim country and see the real world. The leftists are the dumbest people.
Why is it
I 100% agree with that.
Why is it one or the other? Why is it, if you think America's bad, then go to the worst place in the world or go to hell or whatever?
Well, it's because they seem like they like Muslim countries. A lot of Westerners seem like they like Muslim countries.
I'm glad that this guy brought this up, actually, because if you do want to see what a good country is, rather than going, well, we might be shit, but these guys are worse than us, why don't you go the other way? Why don't you go, if the United States isn't the best country in the world, apart from military power and the amount that you spend on things like your military budget, if you want to have a look at countries that do better than the United States, you should look at Scandinavian socially democratic countries.
So you're a socialist?
I'm a democratic socialist, yeah.
So why don't you move to Norway then? They're more fitting into your values.
I would love to get away from this neoliberal.
I mean, it's extremely easy because you're European, so it should be a lot easier for you to move there.
Not to Norway, or because first of all they're not in the European Union.
I know. Norway's not in the EU, really? Are you sure?
No.
You positive? Is Norway in the EU? I thought they were. Well, Sweden you could move to, aren't they in the EU?
We're not. Do you remember earlier on you were
saying? No, I know. You're Brexit. You're saying about you. You're saying about the UK, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. But Norway is not in the EU either. But it still should be easy for you to go there because you're literally going from one European country to another.
Hey, I could go on a small boat.
But also, Norway does not beat us in any. Well, Norway, I guess, would be a good example, but they don't beat us in any metric in take-home income. Even we have higher take-home pay than them.
Do you think what you take home in pay is the only metric that would decide whether or not it's worth living somewhere?
Well, I mean, we have
about quality of life, quality of healthcare.
We have better healthcare, but it's just more expensive.
So fewer people can afford it.
Well, anyone with a job can get it that has a good paying job.
Well, in Norway, everybody can. In England, anybody can. So anybody can.
Well, that's because you pay 60% in taxes. That's Americans don't like that kind of stuff.
We don't pay 60% in taxes. The highest tax threshold in the United Kingdom is 45%.
But you have a health insurance tax too.
No, we don't.
You have a high. You have a store tax.
We have VAT.
Okay, so you basically have sales tax as well.
Yeah, but it's put on before, so the prices that you see.
Yeah, I know how VAT works. I lived in Europe, but my main point here is you guys still have about a 7% higher tax rate than us in the top bracket.
Right, but higher taxes means that a better publicly funded.
Yeah, but we could for 7%, we could have insurance if we just paid for our own insurance, even without a company. We could buy insurance for cheaper than a 7% tax raise.
Right. Okay, but if you have higher, so I think that the thing is with the kind of anti-tax rhetoric is that if that the tax is bad, tax is bad if it's spent. If first of all, if it's ridiculously high to the point where you can't live, but
60%, anything over 50%, even 50%, anything over 40%, I consider ridiculously high.
Okay,
but Norway does have an effective tax rate that is like 65%. But let me read a couple of these super chats.
Hang on a minute. The UK taxes go up to 60% for what we consider upper middle class here. What do you mean? Where
we can see UK. We can look up UK taxes.
Look at the UK tax thresholds.
Brackets. We'll look up the brackets, right?
Yeah.
But let me read this comment from Nate. Nate said, Palestinians and Iranians are not Arab, they are white. Actually, Palestinians have taken DNA tests. They are genetically Arab. Palestinians are genetically Arab. They have three types of DNA in Palestine. A Palestinian is not a DNA. Persian is a DNA type. If you take a DNA test, you will pop up Persian. As myself, I'm 1% Persian, believe it or not. I don't think it really counts, but I'm 1% Persian. So that pops up in a DNA test. If a Palestinian child takes a DNA test, they will pop up as one of the three ancestors. Number one is Egyptian. Most Palestinian people have Egyptian last names. It's some of the most common Palestinian last names. Number two, they are going to be Lebanese. Number three, they're going to be Syrian, because remember, all Palestinians come from originally Syria, but a lot of them immigrated from Egypt into the West Bank and became quote-unquote Palestinians. So Iranians are Persian and Palestinians are Arabs, just to clear that up. And Islam is obviously a religion, not a race. And Muslim is just meaning you follow Islam, but that's that. What did this person remind that guy that socialism and communism is that he's defending what Stalin and the Soviet Union did? Those people are such hypocrites.
Right. Can I say something to that?
Yeah, go ahead. You can respond to that.
Thank you. First of all, communism and socialism aren't the same thing. Socialism isn't, or democratic socialism, and the socialism that you see in Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden.
Well, it's not socialism. It's actually a social democracy.
Yeah, but their policies are social. They're socialist policies.
They're social, but they're not socialist.
No, they are. So
socialism is a type of government. It's like a type of economy. It's an economic market. It's a type of economy.
So that's why I'm saying. So that's
the way socialism works is in a socialist type of economy. There's no privately owned business. Like you can't have an IKEA in Sweden because IKEA is from Sweden. That's a large privately owned company.
This guy has said that the communist and socialist talking points that I'm defending, that's not what I've said. I've said I'm a democratic socialist. It's a very different thing.
Well, I know it's a very different thing, but it's pretty much like you yourself. I think you're more closer to you're more for social democracy than democratic socialist. If I had to put a label on you. Blessing you with some shekels. God bless Sir Farnell. Appreciate you, brother. Huh?
Social democracy and a democratic socialist, they're just the two same words, just flipped around.
No, they're not the same words flipped around. And let me explain the difference. Okay, so social democracy is a country, like the United States is a social democracy, believe it or not. We're a social democracy. We have democracy. We're technically a constitutional republic, but we're a social democracy. We have democracy. We have social programs. So we have a social democracy. We have, you vote for leaders. We also have the social programs like welfare, Section 8 free housing, free insurance, free food, food stamps. We have all that stuff. That's all it takes, really.
So they are.
That's a social democracy. And a socialist democracy. In a socialist democracy, there's no private business. That's the main difference. There's no privately owned business.
We've both got a criticism from Fox Finding Life saying two idiots talk shit they don't know.
Well, fuck you, buddy. I don't care. But yeah, they are very similar. But the main difference is, like when you look at the definition of socialism, it tells you one of the factors of how the economy runs is either the social aspect of it is every company is ran by the people. So everyone has equal ownership in the company. They're not employees.
That's communism.
No, that's socialism. Socialism, you can look up the definition yourself. I can read it off to you if you want off Google. But socialism is very similar. And the distinction with communism is probably more authoritarian. And also in socialism, there is still businesses that are owned by the people. In government and communism, I don't think there's any businesses that are owned by the people. In a communist country, everything is owned by the government. No choice. But in the socialist country, there's businesses. The reason it's called social is because all the people get to work together and they create a company. Like we have companies that like work like this in the United States, but our government doesn't force us to do it. In a socialist country, you're forced to do it. Every business has to be 4 people with equal ownership. I'm just giving a random number. It doesn't matter how many people are in the company. 4 people, equal ownership, and you guys all work together. You get the same, you get the same pay. You're all doing equal work in the company. That's how a socialist country works. And there's also sometimes in a socialist country, there's also a mix. There's that, and there's also businesses that are completely owned by the government, 100% government intervention, or the government works with the people in the business, but there's no private ownership. But it's owned by the people and the government at once. I mean, there's many different types of socialism, and there's many different types of communism. So that's why I laugh when people say, "Oh, you guys don't know what socialism or communism is." There's many different types. And by the way, the Soviet Union, even though they were trying to go towards communism, I don't believe they ever fully established full-blown communism. They failed long before then.
Thank you, Christina, by the way. Sorry, said something nice.
So you're not against private business, right? You're not against one guy owning a business and paying people to work for that company. You're not against that, right?
I think that question is no. The answer to that question is no. But I think the question is too simple. I think so. For example, it depends.
You're more pro Nordic model. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So say if somebody owns a small business or a medium-sized business and they pay tax and they don't find loopholes and all that sort of stuff, and they don't have enough money to, for market manipulation like we've seen with the Iran war, and oil prices all of a sudden, drop in and people making, I think it was 1.5 million off that. No, 1.5 billion, sorry, was invested 15 minutes before Trump made his Twitter post saying that there was going to be a peace deal of some kind, and people made about 500 million on that. So
I don't know if that's true. I'd have to look into that, but go ahead.
So when people have significant, so if somebody owns a business to the point where they're billionaires, millionaires, to an extent where they can manipulate markets and stuff like that, no, I'm completely anti that. I've got no problem with people. I don't advocate for an economy where everybody is paid the same thing. What I believe in is I believe in entrepreneurialism. I do believe in that to a point where it's taxed fairly and it doesn't crush the working class and people at the very bottom of the pile. But also that public services like healthcare, like education, like the police, fire brigade, whoever it may be, that our roads, housing is funded sufficiently. I don't know why that would be considered radical.
Well, someone said Nordic socialism is propped up by American money and military. That is, a lot of that is 100% true, but I still don't consider Norway a socialist country, because let's see, when you look up Norway, socialist, it'll probably tell you no. Let's just take a look what ChatGPT says. I'm curious. It says no, Norway is not a socialist country. ChatGPT says Norway is a social democracy with a capital market economy. The capital market economy is mainly what makes it not socialist. You can't have a capitalist market economy and be socialist. You would have to have a socialist market economy.
Can I just clarify that I wasn't saying that those nations were socialist. I was saying they were democratic socialist nations, and that it was that guy in the comments that said that I was advocating for communism and socialism. So that's what I was defending there.
Well, they're still not democratic. So they're not democratic socialist nations. I mean, you can ask Google, you can ask ChatGPT, and it'll all tell you the same thing. Here's examples. Here's a perfect breakdown about Norway. Norway has private ownership dominates. Free market, open trade, strong property rights. In socialism, government owns almost all means of productions, factory, business, and land. And for business, mostly private businesses, Norway ranks high in economic freedom versus socialism. Socialism, central planning and state control of the economy. So they don't have a free economy. You don't have economic freedom. One of the things that people say that makes Norway so great is the economic freedom. A socialist country doesn't have economic freedom.
We love freedom.
Yeah, that's why we don't like socialism, because and socialist countries, central planning and state controls the entire economy.
Okay. We were originally, we keep on going off the point. We were talking about UK immigration.
Okay, hold on. Let me read this real quick because I think this is kind of relating. America and Western Europe are the best countries in the world. We should protect them at all costs and choose what kind of people we bring in. I can 100% agree with you. I mean, I've lived in America. I've lived in, I'm in America right now. I've lived in Western Europe. I've lived in Eastern Europe. I think that if the West had, if it was running like it was running in the 1950s and the 1960s, both for the United States and the UK, I think, we'd be a much better nation. And I know in the 50s and 60s, people might give me shit and say, well, didn't you guys have like a 80% tax rate or
Jules,
something?
it's Britishness is what it's called.
But no, we had an effective tax rate that was similar to today's tax rate.
Okay. We were talking about UK immigration, and we're saying that we were originally talking about immigrants coming over.
So why is it not a problem? If I look up an article right now, it's going to say immigration stabbings or illegal immigrant stabbings are way up in Europe or in the UK specifically. Why would you be? Huh?
Could you pull that figure up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've seen multiple articles on it, and I'll pull it up.
Because we're talking about here is that we're talking about net negative or net positive when it comes to any decision or policy when it comes to policy making. So yeah, you could point to an immigrant coming over to a country and stabbing somebody or committing an act of crime of some kind, but there are also nationals that were UK born citizens that do the same thing. But we don't advocate to get rid of all UK born citizens. What I would say is if somebody does commit a crime, they should be punished or they should be rehabilitated, one of the two. Or both, depending on the crime that they've committed. But it shouldn't just be they might cause a crime, so therefore we don't let them into the country. Because in that case, you wouldn't allow anybody into your country, including with tourism. You can't function based on possibly 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 100 people committing a crime because they're from some sort of country that you deem to be lesser than your own. It doesn't work.
But the thing is, it's not that it's just lesser; they're statistically more prone to violence. I mean, you can literally see a statistic of each group of ethnicities, nationalities committing crimes based on their nationalities. Like I think, if I'm not mistaken, Afghanis. The reason that Afghanis are banned in your country is because they have some of the highest crime rates, statistically speaking.
When it comes to immigration, so okay, let's concede your point and say that in terms of crime, it's a net negative. Would you argue that it's a net positive for something like what the NHS is, don't you?
Yeah.
So in the NHS, when we left the European Union, we ended up with fewer people in the NHS working in the NHS, and we can't properly manage our NHS now because so many people have left because we're not taking people from abroad. So that's a point there where there is a net negative because we've limited the amount of immigration coming into the country.
Many people lost their job because no more immigrants are coming into the healthcare system.
No. So fewer people. So when we left the European Union, people left the country that were immigrants because they weren't allowed in the country anymore because of the free movement of people that we had in Europe, and because of that, it had a significant impact on the NHS and our healthcare system.
Wait, explain that last part again. What was the issue? Sorry.
Okay, so in the United Kingdom, we have the NHS, and the NHS has employees. Well, it has about 1.5 million people working in the NHS, so it's actually our largest employer in the.
Yeah.
The majority of sorry, my dog's doing something weird. One moment. There we go. Okay. So when we left the European Union, we had a significant number of people who were European nationals that ended up leaving the country because they couldn't stay in the country any longer. And as a result of that, it had a significant impact on the NHS and our healthcare system, which means that, and then that added with stripping services, so stripping money and funding from the NHS has ended up pretty much crippling it. So that's a situation there where we need immigrants. We have an aging population currently.
Those were illegal immigrants.
What?
The Europeans that were in the UK, they were illegal immigrants. Legal
immigrants, yes.
And what were they doing for the UK health system? I'm still confused.
They were working in the system, so it might be doctors.
Okay, well, you guys have 1.2 million illegal immigrants that are on your healthcare system. Why don't you just deport some of those, and you won't have to hire you won't have to fire people. I mean, you won't have to hire new people. If there's a job shortage, doesn't that help your economy?
No, because you don't have the right. Well, yes, it helps you.
Because then more people will be able to get new jobs.
Economy, right? Okay, what you mean? What you're saying
This
is
guy is from your country, by the way, the UK. He says illegal immigrants and migrants are different things. Yeah, 100% different. But let me read this other super chat
yeah,
because it disappeared. He said, Jewel, what countries are available for Pakistani citizens? I don't know. Probably not too many.
conversation.
Probably a couple, maybe in Asia, I would have to guess. You want me to look it up? I don't know. Let me read this other one real quick. Ask the leftist guy what he thinks about Birmingham. A girl can't even walk in peace without being scared.
Right. Okay. Well, again, that's. It would be interesting to know whether or not that person lives in Birmingham or not. When it comes to crime, I would like to know what their assumption is in terms of what is wrong with Birmingham. What is wrong with Birmingham currently? I'd like to know. Because if it is once again based on race, then that's just it's right wing talking points that don't hold any.
But what if one race of people are committing all the crimes and they're entering illegally?
They're not. The majority of people that commit crime in the UK are white British.
Actually, I did a run on that. They're actually black and brown. I can tell you the numbers right here.
The majority of people that commit crime in this country are black. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, well, if we're talking about knife rates, the British knife rates for
crime. We're talking about crime because if you want to pick up,
well, we're talking about violent knife crime. But if you want to talk about crime, we can. I think white people statistically commit more drug offenses than black people, but black and brown people, at least in America, black and brown people are 14% of the population, and they commit 56% of all the violent crimes.
In where? Sorry, the United States.
Yeah. So I don't know about your country, but as far as knife stabbing rates, black and brown people, they have a 46% rate. White man, 20% rate. Mixed people have a 12% rate. Asian or Asian British have 7%. Other is 3%.
It'd be interesting to know what others are. But of course, statistically, some groups are going to commit more crime than others, and you'd have to look at socially what the reason for that is. A lot of that is down to poverty. It's down to gangs. It's down to young boys a lot of the time, sadly, especially in the area that I live in. When I was talking to you at the very beginning about the town that I'm from, Middlesbrough, if you look at, if anybody, whether or not you're in the United States or the UK, if you look at Middlesbrough and knife crime and crime in this area, it's rife at the moment. And the reason for that, it's not down to race. It's not down to that there's some sort of genetic. I know that nobody's said this, but this is kind of the way that people end up thinking is that because there is a higher rate of black, brown, or Muslim or Hindu, whatever you want to say, commit a crime more than another group, you can't just pin it down to that one reason. You have to look at socially what the reason for that is. And for example, with Middlesbrough, you'd have a higher number of people in this community committing a crime than, say, you would in Devon down south, which is a really nice area. And the reason for it is poverty. One of the biggest reasons is because people are neglected. People don't, and crime as a result of that ends up going through the roof. It's got nothing to do with black, brown, whatever your skin color is. It's down to.
But what if they're immigrants coming into your country and it's mostly the black and brown ones that are committing the crimes? Then would you consider, lowering it? It's not even about skin color in these statistics. It says 15% of your prison population is foreign. Do you think there's an issue with that? Maybe we shouldn't be letting in so many criminals. That almost 20% of your prison population is foreign nationals. Huh?
Foreign nationals, as in they've come from another country and now they have UK citizenship?
I mean, it's foreign nationals, and it doesn't matter if they came there legally or not. But
people
seems whatever your vetting process there.
Committing crimes. Of course, you're going to get people committing crimes. But what I would say is, on the whole, I'm not saying that immigrants, say illegal immigrants or legal immigrants or tourists or people, others, aliens coming into the country. Some people will commit crime, as white people commit crime, and that's why we have a justice system.
So then, how is it beneficial towards the country? Because in America,
because on the whole. Because on the whole, in terms of if you weighed up the pros and cons of how much they pay in tax, how much they contribute socially, culturally, what they contribute to their jobs, their communities, multiculturalism, I think is a wonderful thing. I want to see.
Well, we already have multiculturalism in America. We're not going to have any new cultures coming in by a Venezuelan guy coming here. We already have Venezuelan guys.
No,
so you can't make the excuse for America to have multiculturalism. And by the way, how does multiculturalism help the quality of living in your country? And I don't have the numbers for the UK. Obviously, I don't have the numbers for the UK. But what I can say is, on average, in the United States of America, illegal alien immigrants cost taxpayers $68,000 per year per illegal alien immigrant. And the total amount of money they pay in taxes, less than half of all illegal alien immigrants pay taxes because obviously they're undocumented. We don't have the exact numbers, but there's numbers between anywhere between less than 20% of them pay taxes.
We can agree
But
here.
all the numbers say less than half of them pay taxes. They pay $98 billion a year. They pay $98 billion a year in taxes in our country. And from social services, public education, all the stuff they use, they're a net negative by $451 billion a year. Every single year. That's more money than we've given Israel. That's more money than we've given Ukraine. That's more money than we've given Israel and Ukraine in 4 years. And that's just spent yearly on illegal alien immigrants.
Okay,
so there's not a net benefit to them allowing them to stay in our country, to our taxpayer system. In America, there's no net positive. If you want to go through it from a different route.
Well, yeah, this is where I think we can agree on something possibly here. Is that you've shifted the argument there again to illegal immigration. What I'm talking about is separating the two things, like that person in the comments said.
Oh, legal immigrants, they are a net positive in our country, but it normally takes between 5 to 15 years until they start adding more to the taxpayer system.
Yeah, so by legal route, this is what I'm saying, is that if you fund legal routes properly, I think one of the problems is that...
But legal routes are even a net negative to our country in the short term, most of the time.
How could there be... How is that... Well, even if it's short term, would you not be thinking long term? Or is it just short term?
No, because we have a growing population in our country. We don't really need to take short-term losses for long-term gain for immigration. So I mean, of course we can take it. We do take the risk. We let a certain amount in. It's all about limiting it. We don't just let full open border and everyone come in. Everyone doesn't deserve to come into America. Do you think everyone deserves to come into the UK?
No, I think there should be a legal vetting process.
So it's not a God-given right. What if they go through the vetting process? Is it a God-given right to come into the UK?
No.
Okay, so then there should be some restrictions. What is this gringo fella said? He said, that's why the open border policy is bad. The Muslims have never seen a woman in a skirt before they move to a westernized country. That is another factor that you can consider. I mean, it sounds funny. I see you laughing, but it's really not funny.
Well, it is funny because it's, first of all, you'd be given access to a country if you go through a legal... Right, so can I quickly dissect something?
Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm going to turn my AC up. Hold on.
So, in the UK, I can't say what's going on in the US, but in the UK, what's happening currently, or what has happened over the past 15 to 16 years, is that public services like the immigration system have been underfunded, which means that more people can't go the legal route. They can't get a legal route to citizenship in the United Kingdom. So then the only option for them is to go down the illegal route, which would possibly be through trucks, lorries, hiding lorries and stuff, or coming over on a boat.
So you don't believe in limited immigration? Because I believe that's what's the word for it? That is God's natural, or that is life's natural. What is it called when you pick out the strongest? Something like that, something along that line. But there shouldn't be allowed. We shouldn't allow 100 million immigrants to come in 1 year to the UK.
Right, that's not what I'm saying.
So we should limit the amount. I can agree that it is probably underfunded, just like it's underfunded in America. It's underfunded to process visas. I can agree with you there. But that is maybe God's natural selection process. There shouldn't be 10 million people coming. If we can't even handle the paperwork, then how is our country going to handle them coming in it?
Okay. Can you let me finish my point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you jumped in and I'm not able to lay out.
Sorry. Go ahead. I want to interrupt you again. My apologies.
So, because it's underfunded, as a consequence of that, people go down the illegal route, which means that when they come through, it means that you've got a backlog of people, some that don't have their papers, some that do, and it ends up with a backlog, and it means that people are taken from the system. Because while they're being processed or not being processed, they are being given money, because obviously you've got to allow them to live, and then at the same time, they're not paying taxes on top of that. What I would advocate for is that I do think that you need borders. Of course you need borders. But I think if you funded legal routes properly, that means that people can come through the legal system and be processed quickly, which would limit the amount of people that would go through the illegal system. So you would see fewer boats because people are actually able to make an application on land, or say in their country of origin, they're able to do a remote application, they get denied or not. And that makes also if they do come over illegally and they've made a legal application, it makes the illegal side of it easier, because what you can say is, right, we've got a funded legal system, we can put you through the system straight away. Do they have a legal right to be in this country? No. You can leave the country and we'll send you back to whichever country that you originally came from, or to another country. Or if you do have a right to stay in this country, great, here you are, now you're paying taxes and you can contribute to our society in a number of different ways.
I agree with a lot what you said. First off, I do agree every country on earth that's a first world country should have literally a website where you can apply for a visa online through there. I 100% agree with that. And as far as if you're going to let people in and take welfare while they're waiting to see their application, that's a horrible idea. You should obviously either give them their citizenship, or what I would do is what Trump did. I would make them wait in Mexico, remain in Mexico. You can't come into America anymore and say you're applying for asylum inside of our country. If you want to apply for asylum, you have to wait in Mexico, wait at the border, apply for asylum. The only reason we let people in on asylum without waiting is if they can prove that their life is at risk, that they're in fear for their life. If they give a convincing immigration interview and maybe they have some kind of proof that their life is being targeted, then we'll let them in the country, and then they can have some kind of temporary stay legally while they wait for their immigration papers. But I don't think that we should just be letting people pour into our country, because I know how it works in the UK. My friend told me that you guys literally let people come into your country on boats. They get off on their boat, and then the police will approach them. They'll say, well, you just entered here illegally. What do you do? And they'll say, well, I'm applying for asylum. And they have like a year or like 2 years to apply for asylum. And if they're granted a request, they get to stay. If not, then I guess they're there illegally and they have to come and find them. But that's definitely a problem. That's a horrible policy. No other countries really do that. Like if you come to a country illegally, unless they're super liberal or left wing, they're not going to just let you stay in there while you apply for asylum. They're probably going to deport you back or make you wait in the country next door, like Mexico.
Yeah, but if you think geographically, I understand your point, but geographically, the UK is different from the United States. If you think about people, because we're an island, it's very different. People do come over on a boat, and like we were talking about earlier,
people come into Florida on a boat where I live.
Yeah,
and also, what is so special? What connection does an Afghani man? I know Afghanis can't come in, but what connection or what cultural connection is an Afghani man that makes him want to come to the UK instead of France? Like, why does he care so much about going to the UK other than France? Other than he probably wants more benefits. He wants more social benefits and more social
maybe
backing.
He just wants work. Maybe he wants a better quality of life, wouldn't you?
Well, why can't he work in France, or why can't he work in Spain, or why can't he work in?
He could decide to work in France. France might take him. France would take him in
yeah, but why are they leaving France in droves?
Because they might not speak French.
They might not speak English either, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So if they didn't speak English, then they might be able to learn English. There's ways to integrate people into society, but rather than just ostracize.
I don't know about your country, but a lot of them don't know English here. So I imagine there's probably a lot there that don't know English either.
What's the but you got, so the nationally spoken language here is English, but in the United States you don't have a one.
We passed a law last year. The nationally spoken language is English. Federal law, executive order, Donald J. Trump.
Oh, right, okay. So because Donald Trump says through executive order,
it's always been English.
Oh, okay.
Oh, here we go. We got another man from the UK. Thank you for those pounds right there, those British sterling. What percentage of illegals do you think are possible terrorists or not worth considering? If I had to say a percentage, probably very small, but we shouldn't be not worth considering. Okay, not worth considering. Probably about, as far as not worth considering, probably about 75 to 85% are not worth considering. Maybe we can go down. I would say I'll make it more liberal. Maybe about 50 to 75%. At least 50% of them are not worth considering.
What would you mean?
As far as terrorists, I would say is definitely under 5%. Like being terrorist in that country or having done terrorism in their past life. It depends what you mean.
Being respectful here, you are just plucking numbers there. There's no basis.
Well, I'm just giving you my own estimates. Obviously, I didn't have any method of pulling data.
It's a bit the question in itself. So let's have a look at it again. What percentage of illegals do you think are possible terrorists, or is that possible terrorists? So it's like a thought crime. It's like, oh, they could possibly be a terrorist. We don't know. You'd have to vet them and see. and even
We
then,
really don't know. We really don't know, and it
no, you don't
depends
know
on the country.
until you process them.
It depends on the country that they're immigrating to too, but we
but
really
you
don't
can't.
know. But
But
as
I.
far as turning them away though and not worthy, I would say at least 50% of people that are trying to immigrate to the US are not worthy.
But if somebody
And
ended
I'm
up,
saying this as a person that's lived outside the United States, and I know I've met people that don't live in the United States, and they've told me about their stories about applying. And a lot of them, at least half of them, probably weren't worthy of coming to this country.
somebody said everybody could be considered a potential terrorist, and everybody could as well could be considered to be a really nice person. It doesn't work like that. You can't just work on possibility of, oh, it could possibly be, there could possibly be a
Well,
florist
yeah,
work.
that's exactly how we're
Yeah.
supposed to work when it
So
comes to our national security. We're
no,
supposed
you
to
can't
think
work
about
on
every
possibility.
possible
You can't. No, you
things.
can't do that. That's why you vet people. You see what they have
Yeah,
done.
that's why we
You
care
can't
about our national
on what they
security. Of
might.
course, we vet
You,
them.
you can't make decisions based on what they might possibly do in the future, because in that case you'd be prosecuting people for doing literally nothing.
But we're
You'd be
not prosecuting them. We're just not allowing them to come into our country.
yeah. So why don't we okay, on that basis then, why don't you so the statistic I read out there was 28% of the people that commit domestic terrorism in the United Kingdom are far right extremists. That
And
is
60% are Muslim.
yeah. That's what it said, and I agree with that. But let's take that figure of that 28%. So if you looked at, can you imagine then blanketly looking at all white nationals in the United Kingdom and saying, well, they might potentially commit a terrorist attack, so therefore we're going to
Well, they should
deport
also vet those white nationalists. They should be looking into these
all
people.
white nationalists. Oh, sorry, not white nationalists. Sorry, all white people in the country. Do you think they should?
No, but anyone that's anyone that's looking like they're committing a crime or could be
Yeah, exactly.
investigated for
That
committing a
might
crime, yes, you should
right.
investigate them.
Yeah. So right. Okay. So this is what I'm saying then is that you need to make that distinction between just because someone is a Muslim doesn't mean that they are going to commit a crime. So therefore,
No, it doesn't. I never said it does, but statistically speaking, most terrorist attacks are done by Muslims. I'm not saying to ban all Muslims forever. What I'm saying is permanently put a halt to them. But this guy, Gringo, says the border is like your home. Would you like people breaking in while you're sleeping, eating all your food?
it's not like your home. That's the.
It is like your home. Your country
No,
is
it's
like your
not.
home.
It's a completely different.
Is your
Okay,
country not your home? Is it literally not the same thing?
it's a shared home.
It's a shared home, and
It's a
you shouldn't
shared.
let
It's a shared
anyone come into
place
it.
where everybody gets
What if
along.
you're sharing a flat with a couple roommates and some random dude just walks in? Is that okay?
Yeah, and you know what? There's people that are born here every single day in this country that could be doing the same
Yes,
thing.
those
20
people are
years
the people
time.
that you grew up with in your community. You don't know these
Who,
illegal alien immigrants.
who can commit crime? Somebody that's white could be born down the road and in 20 years' time could commit a crime, but you don't think that about them. You only think it about people
Yes,
that
but
come
they're
over.
here legally. They're here legally. They're already here
Exactly. So
legally.
if I'm not advocate, this is what the point I'm trying to make. I have not advocated at any point that somebody should come across illegally. I've said on a number
If
of
the
occasions.
Muslims came into the UK legally, then we should let them. But it doesn't mean we're going to let them all in.
Okay, so
Right? We should let a very small minority. What's the rate of Islam in the UK? It's supposed to be a Christian country, is it not?
no, it's not. Right. Well, first of all, when we were founded on as a Christian state, but I'm not a Christian. So do
And
I?
not everyone has to be Christian. Obviously, there's religious freedom, but
Why
it's
does
not supposed to
religion
be a
have?
Muslim country. Do
Why,
you want to walk down the street? You see people with jobs, marrying little like
I
5
couldn't.
and 6-year-old kids.
Honestly, I'll answer that question straightforward. I couldn't give a shit. I really couldn't care
I
less.
could,
Well, that's the difference between us, and I don't think we're
because
going
I
to
don't
agree.
want to live in the Middle East. That you can't even call that racist either, because
You
Muslim
could
is not a
I didn't
race.
call it racist. You could go over to
Muslim
the.
is not a race. So how can you call it racist?
I didn't say it was racist. If you went over to the Middle East, you could walk around as a Christian wearing what you would wear, so long as it fits in with their culture. And in our
And
culture,
so as long as it fits in their culture, my woman can't wear a bikini. I can't walk around drinking liquor
no,
in
you can't.
public. I
No,
have
you
to fit
can't.
all their rules. But for
Yeah,
whatever reason, they get to
and we
come
don't have
here and they
those
get to
rules here.
put their rules on us.
We don't have those rules here. That's the difference. That's the
How
difference.
can a
Hang
Muslim
on, hang on,
man come to
hang on,
London and
hang
run
on.
as a mayor? But in a Muslim country, you can't go there and run
Because that's
in
their
political
country. They get to
landscape
decide.
as a Christian. You can't run as a Christian in a Muslim country. But a Muslim can come to a Christian country and run in government. That's fine.
Yeah, that is fine.
No, it's not fine.
It is fine.
Has
Because let me tell you why.
the mayor of London not ruined that city?
Let me tell you why.
38% of all knife crimes happen in London. Why a Muslim is mayor? How is he doing his job in any way whatsoever? 38% of your knife crimes come from one city in your entire country.
The Brits never read a history book. Okay. Right. Okay. So if you're making a distinction that doesn't really kind of make sense. If you've got if you've got an Arab nation, say for example the United Arab Emirates, and they are a predominantly Muslim country, and they're founded on I don't know if it is Sharia. I can't imagine it is Sharia law, but it might be.
I don't think they have Sharia law. They're more of a liberal Muslim country. But you still can't go downtown in Dubai and drink alcohol in public.
That's that country. In the United Kingdom, we sell ourselves as a country differently. We are a liberal democracy. We believe that you should practice. That's our culture. We were founded on multiculturalism. We're founded on a belief that you should.
England was not founded on multiculturalism.
What the current state that is now, the British Empire and the colonization of other nations, and then coming over to develop what the country
you guys were founded on spreading your own culture around the world. You weren't founded on other people coming and spreading their culture inside of your country. The reason that the British Empire was so great was because you weren't letting anyone influence you. It was just your British culture, and you were colonizing and taking over other countries and making them great.
What was great about the British Empire?
They brought a lot of prosperity. They left a lot of infrastructure in a lot of countries.
To who?
Literally every single country. I mean, every single country they left infrastructure. Huh?
Did it bring prosperity to people that were in India? Did it bring prosperity to people that?
You brought them a railway system that they use today.
Say again.
There was definitely beneficials and negatives. They brought them railway systems in both Africa and in India. It brought them resources. It gave them jobs. Some of them were slaves, but
don't want to talk about that part.
No, there was good parts and bad parts.
Yeah, of course. So what I'm saying is that the part of it that I think, and we'll disagree here. I know we'll disagree here, but the difference is that the good part I see from the British Empire is the fact that different communities and different cultures came to this country and built it to what it is today. After the Second World War, we had a shortage of, first of all, the amount of Indians that fought in the Second World War for us was a considerable amount. To then turn our backs on them and say, you're not allowed in our country anymore is quite frankly disgusting, because they fought and died for the country that some of them have never been.
It doesn't mean they get to colonize your country.
They're not colonizing it. There's a difference there. There is a very different situation there. Going over to a country on a huge ship with cannons, swords, muskets, whatever it may be, colonizing a nation, taking its resources and using it for your own benefit and enslaving people. That's very different to what's going on today. Don't compare. Don't say that what is happening today in this country is colonization. It's far from it. It's immigration. And whether you disagree with immigration or not is a different question, but it's not colonization.
42,000 people were allowed in on the English Channel in small dinghy boats that were Indian last year. That is not acceptable. We don't just let a population of a small town immigrate illegally because they fought in a civil war, because someone that's also Indian, technically the same ethnicity, fought in a war years and years ago.
I've just said I don't think people should be coming over on small boats, that we should have legal routes.
Okay, then we agree then.
Yeah, we do agree.
I never said to ban all Indians forever. I just said we should ban everyone for a little bit. Anyone that's not European, we should ban for a little bit from coming to England. I'll just put it that way. It's not even, we'll forget about Muslim, we'll forget about Indian. Anyone that's not English or European should not be coming over to the UK for about 2 to 4 years.
Can I reply to this guy? Sweet Leaf 2001. The Brit is comfortable with his culture and people disappearing. Sad. What our culture is changes all the time. If somebody said to me that I haven't read a history book before, which is idiotic, but there we are. Culture changes all the time. The United States culture, the culture in the United States has changed in the 250 years it's existed. The culture in China has changed over time, depending on what happens. That's the way of the world. Things change. Get over it. And people come over with different beliefs, different ways.
You've had your English culture for thousands of years. You don't cherish
and you know what? It's mixed with Japanese culture, because we've got a Toshiba. We might have a Toshiba or a Toyota car or a Toshiba.
That's not culture. That's invention. You're confusing invention with You're confusing trade with multiculturalism. Trade is not multiculturalism.
Innovating things and it becomes a global.
That's not an innovation. That's just a car. Okay, here we go. Gringo has a question for you.
Yeah, go on.
He says, "Why don't you move into the Middle East country, bro? See how good life is. You're talking too much propaganda." That's what he says.
Can I answer that directly?
Yeah, go ahead. Direct answer it.
First of all, when have I advocated that I would want to do that? But second of all, because this is the crazy thing about it, is that this guy's saying, well, why don't you move to the Middle East? When have I said that I wanted to move to the Middle East? But if I wanted to move to the Middle East, there's reasons why I wouldn't move to the Middle East. That's why I'm saying I understand why people would want to come over to our country. Because in many respects, in both education, economy, freedom of speech, religious practice, whatever it may be, you're not prosecuted for being homosexual. There are a number of different things that would be a magnet to draw people to this country, and to the United States, to the same to France, to Germany. Well, the point you've just made there, well, why don't you go and live in the Middle East? I wouldn't advocate for somebody to live in the Middle East. I wouldn't advocate for anybody to live anywhere. I'm just saying that if you want to live somewhere, if you want to live in this country at the very least, the country that I live in, I don't have a problem with you coming over here, so long as that you are not a criminal already, and that you want to integrate into society and you want to contribute to it. I don't see a problem with that.
Well,
and I understand
there's 1.2 million people in your country that don't want to immigrate to your culture, your society.
Say again?
There's 1.2 million people in your country at minimum that don't want to integrate. They don't want to assimilate.
Say one more time. I ended up reading somebody's comment. Sorry about it.
There's 1.2 million people in the UK that don't want to assimilate to your culture.
Who's that?
All the illegal alien immigrants.
Who? Sorry?
All the illegal immigrants. You want to do a poll? What kind of poll?
Well, you just said that 1.2 million people don't want to assimilate. How do you know if they don't want to assimilate?
Because they didn't come here legally. So obviously they don't respect the laws and the rules and the regulations already.
Right. Okay. Well, we're not
here's a good question. How can the UK benefit from Islamic culture? Straight out of the UK, he's asking another British man.
Well, I actually went to school with quite a few people that are Muslims and have families that have immigrated from Islamic countries. Whether it be food, music, celebration. For example, do you think we should be teaching Arabic numerals in education?
We don't teach them in America, I don't believe. Maybe we do, I don't know.
Well, Arabic's numerals are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And
no, they have their own. They have their own look. You never seen an Arabic watch before? I heard this question before. Everyone says the same thing, but there are Arabic numbers.
It's true because
there is literally, of course, they have the same numbers, but they have their own look. I can show you on camera.
They invented what is today. They are Arabic numbers.
Arabs didn't invent numbers.
No, the numeric system that we have today.
I don't know exactly what specifically you mean by that, but there's a literal Arabic. There is literally an Arabic number system, and it looks like this.
Yeah. So right. Hang on. Because this guy's just asked, what part of Islamic culture would you want to be a part of your country, a part of the United Kingdom? And I've answered the question, whether it be music or food or celebration or
film. Well, you already have all their food, and also, why do you need their food? You have your own food. Even though it's not very good, no offense. But
the foods, plenty of people in the United
States. By the way, that's not Islamic culture. No, the number system is not culture. That's an invention.
It is culture. Right. If you look, let's define.
Is culture different from innovation? Is innovation and culture two different things? I mean, you can say innovation is a result from their culture, hang on. But innovation and culture are not the same thing.
Right, the Oxford Dictionary. Now, you could look up the Harvard Dictionary if you want. I'm sure it'll say the same thing. The Oxford Dictionary. Culture is the ideas, customs, and social behavior of a particular people or society. Ideas, whether it be numeric systems, and the systems that we have with numbers today. Customs, it could be religious.
My definition does not say that. My definition says culture is the shared system of learned behaviors, beliefs, values, customs, artifacts that define a group's way of life and are passed down through generations.
Yeah, and so that culture, Islamic culture, like he's talking about, would then be a part of our society in the same way that Hindu culture is, Jewish culture is, Christian culture is, traveler culture is, whatever the culture is.
So how can we benefit from Muslim culture? What's something that we don't already have that they can come give us? They can come culturally enrich us.
It's not as transactional as that. It's not as simple as.
Well, so there's nothing they have that really offer to us because we have it all already.
Well, in that case, then you wouldn't ask for Jewish people to come to your nation. You wouldn't ask for Catholics to come to the nation because this is a Protestant Christian country. You wouldn't ask for.
Well, that would be continuing. At least they have similarities. It's about assimilating.
You can still
Catholics
assimilate.
And Christians get along. Catholics and all different branches of Christianity get along perfectly fine. What's the rate of terrorism in Christians? Is it 87%?
What's the rate of?
Is it 87%?
What's the rate of terrorism amongst extreme right conservatives in the UK? 29%. So you could use.
I have a hard time believing that because I can't think of.
Look it up. It's government statistics. I know you don't believe it.
What do they consider a terrorist attack? Name one single terrorist attack done by a radical right Christian in the UK.
Raoul Moat.
What is that?
Raoul Moat is a guy. He ended up taking a shotgun and killed people.
What kind of people did he kill? Where was it? And what for?
It was when I was a kid. This was, I think, 2009-ish.
So this was like 17 years ago, basically.
Yeah, but
this was 17 years ago. So this wasn't even really in the last 20 years, barely. Someone says, name one country /kingdom/empire in all of human history that has survived mass immigration of people that hate it and refuse to assimilate.
See, the question again, that they refuse to assimilate. Yes, there will be individuals in all nations that refuse to assimilate, but on the whole, people do. Britain has existed.
On a whole, you think as a whole, Muslim people assimilate to other cultures?
Right. Okay. So I'll answer this question. The United Kingdom is about 1,000 years old, as it is discovered to be today. 1066 is England, shall I say? England was founded in 1066. William the Conqueror and all that. So we've survived 1,000 years. So which nations do you want to be longer than that? Because Egypt is one of the
You guys were predominantly a white nation, but you've lost about 30 or 40% of your white population in 50 years.
To who?
To mass immigration.
Because people have come over.
Yeah, you've lost about, literally about almost basically half of your white pop. You used to be around 80 to 90% white. I think now you're around 55, 60%. You used to be 80 to 90% white.
Demographic of UK race.
White demographic UK.
81% of people in the United Kingdom, 81.7% of the population are white. Asian 9.3%, black 4%, mixed 2.9%, and other ethnic groups 2.1%. So it's still 81%. And at what point would that become?
Let's take a look at the massive drop. Okay, hold on. We're taking a look.
None of you look. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you went from being in the 1970s, you were a 98% white country, 98 to 99%. Today, you are roughly 80%.
Who cares?
And that's if you include white British people, you're 72%. So you've lost basically 33% of your white population in 60 years. And another 60 years, you'll probably be under 50%.
Who cares?
But you still didn't name one single country or empire in all of human history that survived mass immigration with people that hate it and refuse to assimilate. Is there an answer for that or no?
Well, do you think 1,000 years is enough to answer that question?
You were 99% white until about 60 years ago. You didn't survive mass migration.
What you've just said, which society would survive?
In the long term, have survived in the long term mass migration.
It's not in the long term.
You didn't have mass migration until about 60 years ago.
Can I just point this out? He says, who cares? He's a Don Jew like Starmer. What's a Don Jew? What the fuck does that even mean?
I don't know. Italians and the Irish took decades to assimilate. Why not give the same grace to Arabs? No, they didn't. Italians and Irish pretty much instantly assimilated in America.
They were constantly fighting each other for a start off, but
well, yeah, fighting is not the same as not assimilating. They were both Christians. And none of them wanted death to America, and none of them believed in
Jewish communities
of marrying 6-year-old people.
What
about them? They had the same culture as us.
What culture is that?
Christian. They have the same. They believe in the same, Christianity. They have Christian culture.
The Jewish people have Christian culture?
Yeah, they believe in the Old Testament. Don't you know what Judaism is about?
Yeah, I understand what Judaism is.
We share the same values. We have the same 10 Commandments.
Who's to say that a Muslim wouldn't share the same values as you?
They don't. They don't have the same. They don't have the same commandments given from God.
All Muslims don't share. There's not one single Muslim that would share the same values.
Unless they're not following Muslim values. It's possible if they claim they're Muslim and they're not following Muslim values, then they could have the same values. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going.
The guy with the mustache is wrong. We both have mustaches.
Hey. Yeah.
So is he trying to say we're both wrong? I mean, like, what the fuck? That was a subtle. That was a subtle. That was a subtle diss. Subtle. We do worship the same God. But Muslims and Christians literally don't worship the same God. And what is wrong with being homosexual? I'm not homosexual, but you guys are the party of LGBTQ. You're the Democrats. You're the lefties. You're supposed to be open and loving for gay people. What's wrong with being gay? All of a sudden, you Democrats, you leftists, you use it as an insult? I mean, I don't support homosexuality, but if you're gay, I don't really care.
How many people do you usually get watching this stream?
I don't know, between like 300 to 1,000 sometimes. Religion equals assimilation. Italians were culturally distinct from Anglo-Americans until the 1880s, the 90s. Yeah, they are culturally different, but they assimilated. It's not the culture that Italians and Anglo-Americans have very similar culture. They literally come from the same continent. I mean, there's plenty of similarities. They're both Christian. Angles and Italians, they're both Christian. They follow the same commandments. They believe do not, murder, do not steal, do not lie, do not bear false witness. Do not bear false witness about thy neighbor. That's one of the commandments. They don't believe in cheating on each other's wives. They don't believe in marriage of 8 and 9-year-olds. I mean, they share a lot of the values. They have to keep going. They both believe in working hard. They don't want to take any welfare. They didn't have any welfare back then, to be fair. But those are some of the values they share. Muslims, they believe in child marriage. They believe you can have multiple wives. They believe you can lie. I mean, if you read the hadith, there's 3 reasons in the Muslim hadith why you can lie. One of those reasons is to further Islam. If you're furthering Islam, if you're making someone become Muslim, that is an excuse why you can make them, why you can lie to them to make them become Muslim. That's in the hadith. I can quote it from the hadith. Muslims believe all the same stuff. It's an Abrahamic religion. No, they don't. Muslims do not believe in the same stuff. I mean, they literally believe all infidels, the jihadists believe all infidels should be killed. That's part of the religious teachings. Anyone that refuses to don't you know about the jihad war? The jihad war is a religious war. Muslims and Christians are very, very different.
I'm going to have to bow out of this, I'm afraid.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
Nice debate. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Even though I verbally abused you to get on in here.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, I know you are. For all the people in the chat that are listening, thanks for listening. This is going to sound really corny, but we've got more in common than we do that divides us. And I think this kind of proves it, that you can actually have a conversation and get on. Peace, mustache, bro.
You're a G, bro. Keep what you're doing. Peace.
Yeah, you too, man. See you soon.
Have you not heard of the Crusades open a book? I've heard of them. I've heard of them plenty of times. If y'all have any other questions, comments, anything you guys want to talk about, anything you guys want to say before I hop out of here, or if someone else wants to hop on here, maybe we can make it happen as well. Just let me know, guys. But smash that like button. That was nice. Do y'all have any questions or comments or anything else you guys want to talk about? Let me know. I read the hadith. I read some of it before. My favorite food? I have a lot of favorite foods. I guess steak. I didn't see your question. Let's save America with the Save America Act. How many of you people think we need voter ID? We need voter ID and we need to deport all the illegal alien immigrants. I think we should be able to agree on that at the bare minimum. Nick Shirley's work, I think Nick Shirley is fantastic. Shout out Nick Shirley. I love steak. Can we get W steak in chat? Can y'all smash that like button? Can you subscribe? If you guys have any questions, comments, anything you guys want to talk about, feel free to drop some super chats if y'all got anything else you want to talk about before I hop out of here. Yes, voter ID. We need voter ID. Save America Act. We need to reopen the government so we can get ICE out of our airports, even though I like ICE in our airports. Because I'm traveling this week and I love to see ICE in our airports. So, W ICE in our airports. If you want to debate, you guys can join my Discord. Let's debate. Does anyone want to have a debate? Go ahead and join my Discord, guys. Make sure you subscribe. Debate to join the Discord right there. For all the people that drop super chats that want to be a part of a great community where we debate, we have all kinds of conversations. We can get people on stream. We have a whole community full of people. Just join that Discord link. You're definitely not going to want to miss it. Join that Discord link right there. It's a free application. If you don't know already, you can download Discord for free. Trump has a 78% approval rating. Trump's approval rating is 78%. Gas prices are still down. Gas prices are way, 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 way down. But I want to plug in my phone. If y'all got any questions, comments, anything you guys want to talk about, like I told you before, drop some super chats, guys. Show some love to the channel. And I'm gonna read every single one of them, y'all. I'm gonna read every single super chat that y'all send through. I don't even know where my other phone charger is. I would have liked to plugged it in and had it join in. Does anyone else want to join in the live stream? Just join in the Discord. I've debated plenty of veterans before. I have frequent veterans that come on here and debate. Sharia law punishments, they'll like cut off your hand if you lie. But smash that like button. Why were the Democrats celebrating Charlie Kirk's death like disgusting fuckers they are? But do y'all have any other questions, comments? You guys should join the Discord and debate. Let's get some debates going, fellas. Let's get some debates going. 78% is with the Republican Party. 78% Republican approval. That's some of the highest Republican approval in history. Trump has an overall approval rating higher than Barack Obama. Higher than Barack Obama. What's your thought of British after that? They're not protective enough of their country. The young British people out there, they gotta rise up and fight against illegal alien immigration scum. Can we all agree on that? They gotta get up. They gotta fight against illegal alien immigration scum! Scum of the earth! They gotta fight against illegal alien immigration scum because illegal alien immigrants are the scum of the earth. The scum of the earth. Andrew Tate said it was because Charlie Kirk could move people and the Democrats were afraid. Yeah, Charlie Kirk could move people. He could literally make people get up and go over to him and debate him. Demon rats! Unalived Charlie fucking Kirk. Demon rats! Unalived fucking Charlie Kirk, my guy. Demon rats. Demon rats! Fucking certified demon rats. Never said I was a big fan of Andrew Tate. Demon rats! Want to unalive every single Republican that disagrees with them. Yes, demon rats. Debate here. Join that Discord. Let's debate. There's a link in my bio. Let's get something set up, fellas. Peace out, fellas. I'm gonna hop off here in a couple minutes as well. If y'all got any final questions, super chats, you want to show some love to that channel, to the channel. This was almost a 2-hour debate. So if anyone wants to send some memberships or any super chat questions or comments, I really appreciate you guys a lot. It means a lot to me in the channel. But just let me know, guys, because the views are dropping. Because whenever we have a split screen and someone leaves, the views tend to drop. Every Democrat has a Republican relative. That's true. What did I lie about? Can you name one single thing I've lied about? One single thing I've lied about. Nothing? Oh, I didn't think so. I did not think so, brother. I didn't lie about anything, but if anyone wants to debate the cheap gas prices and the deportations of these illegal alien immigrant scum, we can debate. Just join the Discord. Let's get some debates going. Debate here. We can debate Islam. We can debate anything you want. Join the Discord. We can debate Palestine, whatever you want. Join the Discord. Not trolling, brother. I'm 100% serious. Trump is going to be president in 2028. You like it or not? You like it or not, brother? Make sure you guys subscribe. We're going to try to come back with another debate in the next 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, I know exactly what deportation involves. There's no way a U.S. citizen has ever been deported under Trump. Because they do biometrics. They run your face, they run your name, they run your blood, they run your fingerprints. They do a bunch of different biometrics to make sure you're not in any system in the government. So, Donald J. Trump has never deported a U.S. citizen. Never once in history. And if you want to debate this with me, you can go ahead and join the Discord. Let's debate it. Donald Trump has never deported a U.S. citizen. Join that Discord. Let's debate, guys. Let's debate. Does anyone here have the balls to fucking debate? No? Anybody? Good channel. I appreciate you, brother. We just had a good debate. Alex Preddy was not deported, unless you mean deported to heaven. If you want to debate about immigration, join that Discord. Not a single illegal alien immigrant has, ever been wrongfully, deported. No one has ever been deported without due process. Not a single American citizen has ever been deported. Join my Discord. Let's debate. Let's set it up. Come live on stream. Trump's approval rating is 78%, sir. 78%. That's among the Republican Party. And among both parties, Trump has the highest approval rating in the last, couple decades. But smash that like button, guys. Smash that like button. All right, guys, this is your last chance. Join my Discord. If you guys have any final questions, comments, anything you want to talk about, you guys can drop some super chats, or I'm going to hop out of here for a little bit while I look for someone new to debate. Join that Discord. Join that Discord. Let's debate. Any final super chat questions or comments? We can talk for another 5 to 10 minutes if y'all got something else to say. I got all facts. Being detained is not the same thing as being deported. Plenty of people have been detained, but not a single U.S. citizen has been deported. If you'll debate me right now, join the Discord. People have been detained, but not a single U.S. citizen has been deported. Join my Discord. We can debate right now. 0 U.S. citizens ever deported by Donald J. Trump. You can join the Discord. You can prove me wrong. You can come on stream and prove me wrong in front of thousands of people. I wanted to debate to change people's mindsets on things. Most people don't know anything about politics. So please, fellas, join my Discord. I'm begging you. If you think one single U.S. citizen was ever deported out of this country under Donald J. Trump, then come debate me. Come debate me. We can debate however you want. Just join my Discord, reach out to me, message me. I have my email in my bio. If that Discord doesn't work, I have another link in my bio. I have my email, I have my Instagram, I have my Twitter. You can reach out to me there. But let's get some debates going, guys. Join that Discord. I'm going to hop off now. We're going to take a quick break and we'll come back here in a little bit. You can email me or you can join Discord. It's really super easy to get it. It's definitely worth to join the community. Peace out, guys. I'll be back in a little bit.